It all starts in a super creepy swamp forest at night. In the middle of this murky water and old logs, a strange light starts to shine. This little light gets brighter and brighter, attracting some flying insects. Suddenly, a slimy little creature pops out of the log, and this creature is our MC. He remembers that the night before, he was reading a manga on his phone. He freaks out when he realizes he suddenly passed away and ended up in another world. But he calms down, figuring the best thing to do right now is check his surroundings to survive. With that, he starts calling out to see if anyone else is around. However, the only thing that appears are several red eyes in the dark, and he decides to keep quiet. Looking around, he notices the place is filled with bugs and moisture everywhere. Even though the place is gross, he feels oddly comfortable in that environment. Then he snaps back to reality and wonders what exactly he reincarnated as. Suddenly, a system screen pops up right in front of him. The screen says he is a level 1 slime mold and needs to eat or hibernate immediately. Our MC panics seeing his HP dropping and realizes if he does nothing, his run is over again. He needs to eat to survive but has no clue what's around to satisfy his hunger. The status screen shows one of his traits as being a decomposer. That reminds him that slime molds eat wood, so he decides to give it a shot. Then he realizes his body spreads out on its own, and it tastes kind of like a soggy cookie. 15 minutes go by while our MC is still devouring the wooden log. After eating, he levels up and his HP is full again. The system warns him that he earned 1 skill point to use. He doesn't know what pulsation is, but decides to put the point there to see what happens. Instantly, the skill activates and his body starts to pulse. He figures out the skill lets him move, and a bit of knowledge just pops into his head out of nowhere. Since he won't be gaining any more XP from wood for a while, he decides to explore the area. Our MC is amazed by his ability to shapeshift at will. While exploring the ground, he spots a very weird mushroom. His slime mold instincts tell him that mushroom is a tasty treat. He stretches out slowly to take the shortest route to his grub. A fun fact is that slime molds are experts at finding the quickest path. Keeping that in mind, our MC carefully approaches the giant mushroom. Using his movement skill, he climbs the mushroom's body with no sweat. Then, reaching the top, he gets ready to finally stuff his face. Suddenly, he has a hallucination of an encounter. The pink-haired girl asks if he is the famous tough guy Bang. With a slime face and looking super stylish, he confirms he is the guy she was looking for. But the girl turns around, revealing a bizarre appearance covered in eyes. Our MC screams that he fell for a scam, and the system alerts him about the poison the mushroom has. With his HP dropping fast, he realizes the mushroom was toxic. In a do-or-die moment, he tears off the part of his body that touched the poison. The system notifies him that the toxin was cleared, but his max HP took a big hit. The mushroom got damaged, and the MC says he'll let it slide just for now. He retreats, swearing he'll come back to fight when he is stronger. Finally, he heads back to the log where he was before to recover. After 15 minutes, he continues recovering on top of his wooden log. The system lets him know his HP is full, and he burps in satisfaction from having a full belly. With full health again, he yells that he is back and ready for round 2. Then he uses his new movement skill to head back to his previous target. His game plan is to eat a bit, pull back to heal, and repeat the cycle until he takes down the mushroom. Our MC calls this grand strategy Project Move the Mountain. He is sure that with plenty of time, he'll manage to topple that mushroom. In his mind, the creature asks if he isn't going to give up since it's already his 8th try. But in the hallucination this time, a pair of handcuffs appears in the mushroom woman's hands. Our MC, now dressed as a cop, arrests the creature and reads her rights. Back to reality, he finally manages to devour the giant mushroom. With that, he gains experience and acquires the level 1 poison resistance skill. Now he understands why he was lasting longer in his latest attempts. He gets a bit bummed that he didn't level up from the giant mushroom. But that doesn't matter, because in a damp place, the one thing you're never short of is mushrooms. Eating a safe mushroom, he levels up to 3 and earns half a skill point. Then he devours a toxic mushroom that gives a ton of XP and goes up to level 4. Next, he decides to eat all the mushrooms at once so they become his nutrients. With that, the system announces he reached level 5, but won't earn any more XP for 24 hours. Satisfied, he decides to take the rest of the mushrooms home since he hit his cap. Our MC happily sings along with the mushrooms on his back that serve as food and protection. He thinks he's a genius for using mushrooms for defense just like crabs do with anemones. He continues his trek through the forest with his mushroom backpack. Suddenly, a swarm of giant wasps flies in, carrying chunks of meat. He hides in the brush, crossing his fingers that the poisonous mushrooms will scare the wasps away. While they fly overhead, we see a frog's tongue snatching one of them. The frog pulls the wasp in and swallows it whole. Our MC is shocked to see a giant frog show up in the area. Immediately, the frog and the wasp start brawling right there in the water. Hiding, he notices the two monsters are throwing down against each other. The frog gets surrounded by the wasps, but he doesn't seem intimidated at all. Then one of the wasps charges in with its stinger, aiming right for the beast's head. With a spot-on bite, the wasp tears off a piece of the frog, who definitely feels the hit. Our MC watches from afar and notes that the swarm's sheer numbers make up for their individual weakness. He figures if they both get messed up fighting each other, he can swoop in on the leftovers and score a ton of XP. The wasps keep gang attacking, and the frog starts losing the upper hand. But soon enough, he readies a counterattack against the wasps. Using his buffed-up tongue, he strikes all the wasps in one go. With his sticky tongue, the little frog pulls the wasps right into his mouth. Watching from a distance, our mushroom-covered little slime is surprised by the frog's strength. After the fight, the frog takes a breather on a branch. Out of nowhere, a giant snake emerges from the water, ready to make a meal out of the frog. In the blink of an eye, the snake strikes, and the frog becomes a snack without even a chance to react. But then, the snake also becomes food for a massive bird that appears out of thin air. The huge bird stares down our MC, and it looks like he is going to be the next course. With all this chaos going down, our MC is scared out of his wits and gives up on fighting. The reflection in the beast's eye shows the sheer panic of our little yellow creature. But the giant bird doesn't even seem to care about him and just completely ignores him. The bird brushes off our little slime and leaps away with its powerful legs. Just the wind from the bird makes our MC lose 30 HP. Luckily, that terrifying bird left and didn't attack our little slime. The night slowly passes over that spooky swamp. Our little slime heads back to the log to hide from the nighttime dangers. Inside the hideout, he thinks about the food chain and realizes he is at the very bottom. Fortunately, since he is so weak, the big monsters don't even bother hunting him. His status screen shows he is level 5 and has 13 skill points left over. He feels down because even after leveling up 4 times, he is still a weak creature. Then he wonders how a slime mold can possibly survive and get stronger in this world. Tired of it all, he just wished everything was a dream and that he'd wake up in his own bed. Then, over the forest, a new day dawns. While he sleeps, a snail shows up and drools green slime on one of the mushrooms. That drool ends up dripping onto our MC, who starts taking non-stop damage. He wakes up screaming in pain, and from the scare, he jumps super high, which makes him acquire the boost skill. Falling from that massive jump, he splats hard on the ground. After pulling himself together, he sees the snail that gave him a huge scare. The bug spits an acidic liquid that eats away at the mushroom our little slime was holding. The green acid begins to dissolve the mushroom. Our MC gets mad seeing the snail use its acid to consume his mushroom. The bug turns around and stares at him with a totally clueless look on its face. He complains that the snail had already brazenly stolen his mushrooms, and that the acid drool almost disfigured him, making this unforgivable. The snail then starts making a really quiet, sad crying sound. Our MC doesn't buy it and tells the bug to stop playing the victim. The little snail keeps trembling, looking like it's about to burst into tears at any second. Seeing the little snail's drama, he starts to think maybe he's being a bit too harsh. Feeling pity, he says he won't make things hard and the snail can eat the mushrooms if it wants. The bug accepts, and the MC thinks this is like a shonen manga friendship. In his mind, he is already picturing the two of them teaming up to boost their survival odds. He also dreams of them leveling up together as the ultimate partners. He even hallucinates way too much, dreaming of being a knight on an adventure to defeat the great demon king alongside the little snail. Then he concludes that to survive in this world, companions are an absolute must. He invites the snail to form a party and promises there will be mushrooms for everyone. The little snail seems to think over the offer and makes a cute little noise. But out of nowhere, it attacks our MC with a completely merciless bite. Because of that, he loses 12 HP and realizes there's no such thing as friendship in the wild. He sees he's been played and that the snail is stronger, so he decides to make a run for it. The evil little snail is left behind with its cute face, holding a piece of our MC in its mouth. To his despair, the snail starts chasing him and doesn't look like it's going to quit. With no other choice, he spends his points to level up his pulsation skill to get away faster. Now at top speed, he runs for his life. He blasts off using his new speed, but the snail is hot on his trail. 3 minutes go by and the chase is still on, looking almost like a Formula 1 race with how fast they're going. Our MC is mind blown because the bug's speed is just as fast as his. Seeing it won't catch him, the little snail stops and starts swelling up its throat. With that, it spits a massive amount of acid right at our little slime. The acid hits him dead on, taking away 27 HP and splitting him right in half. With his body split, he wonders which half his consciousness is going to stay in, but he quickly realizes this is no time to be pondering that kind of stuff. The snail then reveals a bizarre tooth-filled mouth and lets out a terrifying screech. Next it lunges and bites the smaller chunk that got separated by the acid. Our MC swears revenge as he watches the bug gobble up a piece of himself. The snail couldn't care less about the threat and just keeps casually eating the yellow slime. Suddenly the bug turns dark and grows horns, leaving our MC absolutely terrified. In a desperate move, our little slime grabs one of the mushrooms left lying around. The snail, now looking like a total monster, shows its true nature with a mouth full of hundreds of creepy teeth. After grabbing it, he lobs the mushroom right into the snail's mouth to try and save himself. The toxic mushroom kicks in instantly on the snail, making it writhe in pain and drool uncontrollably. After a short while under the poison's effect, the snail drops to the ground defeated, helping our little slime level up to 6. He realizes his plan worked since the bug had 0 poison resistance. Celebrating his win, he is thrilled to have taken down his first monster. Then he wonders what kind of surprise he'll get from decomposing the bug, but touching the snail's body, he feels incredibly grossed out by that slime. Despite that, he talks himself into eating it, pretending it's a fancy dish so he doesn't psych himself out. Only, the taste is awful, making him feel like he's going to throw up. The texture was nasty and the flavor was both sour and salty at the same time. To make matters worse, the system warns him that the decomposition failed and he got 0 XP. He considers throwing the body away, but remembers he risked his life to win that fight. To get stronger, he understands he can't be a picky eater. So he decides to dissolve the little snail all at once, while imagining he's holding his own nose. Our little slime, even while gagging, pushes through to dissolve the little creature. It takes a few minutes to dissolve the little snail. And when he is done, the system announces he leveled up to 7 and his body is fully healed. Even fully healed, our little slime doesn't feel great, kinda like he's still nauseous. The status system pops up showing his skills. He checks his skills and realizes he is only good for eating, running, and taking a beating. Our MC gets annoyed because he has absolutely 0 attack skills. But there's no use complaining since he is just a slime mold and that's his reality. Besides, he consoles himself by admitting he wouldn't beat the monsters even with attack skills. So he decides to use his points to level up his pulsation skill to run away even faster. Pulsation hits level 4 and he is curious to test out his speed. So he cranks up his speed, covering 20 centimeters in a flash. He is satisfied for now with 20 centimeters. But doing the math, he sees that's less than 1 kilometer per hour, leaving him frustrated with his reality. 1 week goes by, and our MC continues his peaceful life on the log. Staying put is safe, but he needs a new home to keep evolving. So, right before heading out, he decides to eat a bit more to fill his belly. With that, he uses his new exploration skill and spreads his body across the area. This way, he manages to map out the region to scout for food and hazards. The system quickly pings that he found 3 mushrooms and is already absorbing all of them. Right after, the system lets him know it found 6 more mushrooms for him. Through this, he learns to eat while exploring, which boosts his efficiency. On top of that, devouring another mushroom bumps his poison resistance to level 4. During his search, he runs into another snail but can't decompose it. The bug counters the attack with a headbutt, knocking 9 HP off our MC. He gets ticked off realizing it's the exact same type of creature that attacked him before. Right away, the snail spits a jet of acid straight at him. The acid hits him, taking 7 health points, but he is just glad his speed went up. He also notices this snail seems way faster than the last one. Even so, our MC brags, saying the bug isn't going to land another hit on him. But he gets tagged again, losing a massive 32 health points. The snail turns its back to leave, thinking the fight was already over. However, our hero seizes the opening and shoves a mushroom right into the enemy's mouth. He reveals he let himself get hit on purpose so the bug would drop its guard. With the poison kicking in, the snail starts writhing in pain. The system announces he reached level 10 after decomposing the bug. Despite the awful taste, he admits that monster XP is totally worth it. With a full belly once more, our MC decides to get back on the road. Suddenly, he senses a weird presence in the forest. He taunts the hidden beast, saying he's already spotted it. But what steps out isn't a snail. It's a bizarre giant centipede. The monster is so huge its shadow completely covers our MC. Its legs look like razor-sharp blades, moving in a super menacing way. Our MC shakes with fear at the sight of that massive bug. The giant centipede darts straight for our little slime. Panicking, he throws his poisonous mushrooms at the creature to shield himself. But the bug just slices the mushrooms mid-air with its legs like it's nothing. He realizes his main poison strategy completely flopped this time. With that, the centipede lunges, wrapping its body around him like a snake and delivering a bite. The bug's head sinks into our hero's body, who seems to have a plan cooking. He realizes his body is immune to slashing attacks, and the centipede can't actually hurt him. With this unexpected edge, he says he's not turning down free XP and consumes the giant centipede alive. After leveling up, he stumbles across a beetle but decides to hold out for something better. Next, he spots a wasp but figures it's not worth the hassle. He even passes on a cockroach, deciding it doesn't look like a good meal. Happy with his progress, he takes a moment to chill and snack on a little strawberry. His status screen shows he is already at level 13 with full HP. He is thrilled with how fast he is leveling up and feels confident. His spot on the food chain is starting to climb higher and higher. Now, he is officially above the bugs and dreams of eating a frog someday. In his head, he already pictures himself as king of the world, standing on top of a mountain of monsters. Continuing his scouting, he arrives at the edge of another swamp in the forest. He wonders if the water is hiding some treasure or resource for him to grab. Without a second thought, our MC decides to test the waters and gets closer. But the second he touches the water, his body swells up and he feels like he's going to pop at any second. A quick biology lesson shows that his body absorbs too much water in a less salty environment. He figures out that since he is a single cell, he swells up in water just like a red blood cell. Because of that, his grand plan to explore the swamp is going to have to wait for now. But out of nowhere, a freaky giant crab emerges from the water right in front of him. Our MC gets spooked and breaks into a cold sweat at the sheer size of that thing. The beast just chills in the water, blowing a bunch of bubbles out of its mouth. He immediately starts dreaming of a crab feast with juicy, mouth-watering meat. So he tries to lure the critter onto dry land to play nice and be cool with it. Except the crab completely ignores him and climbs onto a rock to take a breather. The bug keeps blowing its gross green bubbles without stopping for a second. Our MC gets annoyed since the beast didn't fall for his trap at all. The monster just stays in its own world, totally unfazed by our hero's presence. He gives up on waiting and threatens to poison the water with one of his toxic mushrooms. In response, the crab blasts a powerful jet of water bubbles right at him. The attack hits our little slime dead on. The water jet punches right through his body and blows up on the ground with a massive bang. Because of that, he loses 25 HP and gets a gaping hole blown right through his metal. Realizing he stepped in it, he makes a run for it while the crab fires off multiple water blasts at our little slime. Panicking, our MC sprints and ducks behind a tree to take cover. He realizes the crab is way tougher than the bugs he faced before. So he decides to wait it out, since the fight has now turned into a game of patience for both of them. Then the crab makes the first move, jumping back into the water. Our little slime peeks out from behind the tree, wondering if the beast finally called off the hunt. But just his luck, the crab crawls out of the water and up onto dry land. The creature quickly starts moving. And with that, the beast starts charging at him sideways with crazy speed. Our MC is stunned, realizing the crab actually wants to eat him. With nowhere left to run, he scrambles up the tree as fast as he can as his only way out. He complains about becoming the prey, but plans to use the tree as a shield against the attacks. Only when he gets to the top, he comes face to face with a giant spider. He tries to ignore the spider and tells it to move out of the way because he's got no time to lose. Since the spider doesn't budge, our MC gets annoyed and flexes that he's eaten plenty of bugs just like her. But the creature isn't scared at all and stares him down with its red eyes right in his face. Suddenly, the spider lunges and strikes him with a lightning-fast blow, slicing a chunk of slime right off our MC. From that, he loses 30 HP and wonders why his immunity to blades didn't kick in. The spider tears a piece off him and swallows it, revealing its level 16 with a sword skill. To make things worse, the crab down below fires another water blast right at him. The attack strips away 17 health, leaving him trapped between two monsters with nowhere to go. He starts panicking, realizing his luck has run dry and he is cornered in a dead end all over again. But then, using his squishy little brain, he comes up with a genius idea. He waits for the exact moment the crab fires off a blast of water at him. Using his flexible body, he dodges to take minimal damage while putting the spider right in the line of fire. The massive water blast rips one of the spider's legs right off. The injured creature is left totally clueless as to what just went down. Ticked off, the spider jumps down and fiercely attacks the crab below. The web hits the crab's shell dead center. Pulling itself in close, the spider unleashes a flurry of attacks with its razor-sharp legs. The crab uses its tough shell as a shield and blocks the spider's assault. It tries to crush the spider with its claw, but ends up getting tangled in its own web. The creature then uses its webbing to completely tie up the crab's claw. From a safe distance, our little slime cheers that they finally left him alone. The crab flips out, trying frantically to tear the webbing off. Spotting an opening, the spider lunges for the crab's unprotected eye. But at the very last second, the crab blocks the spider's slashing strike. The spider gets annoyed, feeling the pain in its front leg. The powerhouse crab takes the chance and swings its left claw right at the spider. But with its top-tier speed, the spider leaps out of the way to dodge the pincer. The crab's claw stays clamped shut from the rush, leaving it at a slight disadvantage. So, mixing speed and its web, the spider starts wrapping up the crab, who holds its ground. Even holding strong, the spider manages to wrap the crab up entirely, tying it down completely. Our MC is stunned by the spider turning the tables on the crab. The spider looks confused, seeing the beast blowing bubbles even while hogtied. The bubbles in the crab's mouth start glowing super bright. Suddenly, the crab fires off a spinning water jet with everything it's got. The crab's out-of-control attack is absolutely terrifying. With no way to dodge the wild blasts, the spider gets caught off guard and sliced into 3 pieces. The crazy powerful water beam just keeps sweeping the area non-stop. Our MC barely misses getting hit by one of the jets. After the blast, the crab is wiped out. Its water spout, which was once huge and strong, is now all sad and floppy. At the end of the brawl, spider pieces are scattered all over the dirt. He peeks from a distance, wondering if the beast's rampage is finally over. Seeing the dust settle, he creeps up to the monsters super carefully. He gets up close to the crab and mocks it, saying it is totally washed up. Then he tries to figure out how to finish the beast before it catches its breath. He spots a rock and gets a bright idea on how to end this fight. His big plan is to use a rock to crush the bug by absorbing it first. Only problem is, his inventory is packed full of mushrooms and there is no room for the boulder. He remembers his inventory space relies on his HP, which is pretty low thanks to the fight. So he spits out all the mushrooms just to make room to store the rock. With his inventory cleared up, the system chimes in that the rock was stored successfully. Our MC struggles big time to absorb the heavy boulder into his body. He complains that even inside him, the rock is still way too heavy to lug around. Looking down, he tells the crab that its time is finally up. With the rock loaded inside him, he climbs back up the tree to drop down an attack from above. The crab tries to fight back with one last, super weak squirt of water. But our hero blocks the shot with the rock and just laughs at the beast. The monster freaks out, seeing its final effort did absolutely nothing. Then our MC, carrying the massive boulder, drops right on top of the crab. The system announces he won and leveled up to 14, scoring some points. He crowns himself the grand champion of the battle and starts cracking up out of pure joy. He is on top of the world, sitting on the beast and getting ready for a feast. He uses the monster's shell like a plate and silverware at a fancy dinner. Wasting no time, he gears up to gobble down the crab roe. With that, our MC happily downs a chunk of the beast's leg. For the first time ever, he tastes some seriously good food in this new world. With tears in his eyes, he vows he is going to work hard to eat more crab. Not wanting to waste anything, he also scarfs down the leftover spider bits. After cleaning his plate, he lets out a huge, satisfied burp. Belly full, he feels buff and announces it's time to get down to business. So he steps away from the battlefield for a little privacy. Suddenly, our MC starts straining like crazy. His eyes bulge out and he looks like he has a massive stomachache. Then, our hero lets out a really loud and desperate scream of pain. He pushes with all his might while screaming for it to come out. Turns out, he is trying to mimic the crab's bubble attack. He genuinely believes he can learn the skill on his own, without the system's help. He squeezes as hard as he can to force the water jet out. But in the end, he accidentally just lets out a little slime toot. He complains it came out the wrong end and tries again, pushing even harder. But the result is weak, and he has zero control over where the attack goes. Suddenly, our MC has a lightbulb moment on how to fix the issue. He triggers his boost skill to force the jet out the front. Thanks to that, the skill evolves into a cytoplasm shot that smacks right into the shell. This new skill lets him shoot out chunks of his own body like bullets. He is hyped that he successfully evolved one of his abilities. Then he notices the skill doesn't even have a 5-minute cooldown. Thrilled, he starts blasting pieces of himself just to test drive the new power. Because of that, he hits the shell a bunch of times without needing to wait for a recharge. After spamming it so much, the skill levels up to 2, packing more of a punch. The only catch is the cost of using the power is his own health, which starts dropping. He figures out his skills come from his body, not magic. So to get stronger, he needs to eat more. Then he gets an idea and wonders what would happen if he eats a chunk of his own body. Keeping that in mind, he finds the piece the spider sliced off him during the fight. Our MC is shocked by how big the chunk is and decides to try absorbing it back. So he triggers a recovery skill to fuse the part back into his main body. The separated slime starts moving and morphing back into him in a really weird way. By absorbing it, he gets back the XP and health that piece had collected, plus some weird memories tag along. Now he gets that his separated parts can eat on their own, and he just reclaims everything later. Our MC realizes he just stumbled across a glitch in the system. He plans to split into a bunch of pieces and send them out to work like extra mouths. To test it out, he uses his new split skill, but it ends up costing him 10 HP. He notes that if a piece's health drops under 30, it starts eating itself. But as long as there's plenty of grub, he can make as many clones as he wants without stressing over their HP. Pumped about the idea, our MC starts twisting around to split into multiple chunks. With a pop, he splits and loses 30 health, but creates a squad of clones to power level way faster. After rounding up his clones, he eats the rest of the spider to heal up. Our MC feels way more overpowered now that he has mastered his slime body. He realizes he is totally immune to standard piercing attacks and feels pretty safe. Even if it's a sword, the damage is still super low thanks to his gooey body. But a high-tier slashing attack, like the spiders, can still slice him up. The bright side is, he regenerates fast, making him basically immune to the damage anyway. With that, he figures physical attacks aren't really a threat to him right now. The only wildcard left are magic attacks, which he hasn't even seen yet. He wonders if this world is just filled with animals, or if he just hasn't explored enough. Suddenly, he hears a strange noise and sees something moving in the swamp. One of his clones goes over to check it out and gets snatched by a crab. A whole gang of crabs shows up and starts chowing down on the pieces of our hero. They crawl out of the water and drag the slime onto dry land to eat in peace. The beasts just keep munching on the clones without taking a breather. A bunch of crabs of all different sizes feast on the clones. Hiding up in the tree, he watches the crabs take the bait hook, line, and sinker. He is using his clones as a trap. With the crabs right where he wants them, he brings the massive tree he was hiding in crashing down. Then, a huge boom rings out as the tree slams into the ground. With that move, he takes out 6 crabs all at once and levels up to 15. After that, he eats the leftovers of the bugs to completely top off his health. Bellyful, our MC decides to practice his shooting skill. In his mind, he pictures himself as a badass gunslinger. So he starts firing his slime bullets at the crab shells. After a ton of shots, his firing skill goes up to level 6. After 2 days of training, he is beat, but his aim and firepower have leveled up big time. Now, he can pop off 30 shots before running out of health. Suddenly, he gets the bright idea to mix some extra ingredients into his ammo. Because of that, he can shoot a toxic mushroom to poison enemies from far away. Just like that, he can also fire a rock to boost the physical damage of the hit. Having a whole arsenal of attacks makes him way more dangerous. Our MC thinks he is an absolute genius. Suddenly, he hears a weird noise coming from a hole in the tree and spots a tiny light. The mysterious light catches his eye, so he climbs the tree to check it out. Standing at the entrance of the tree hollow, he is super curious about what could be inside. But out of nowhere, there is a giant ghostly owl chilling inside the hole. Our MC panics, realizing he finally ran into a monster that uses magic and jumps out of the tree to escape the owl. Without a second thought, he knows he stands zero chance and decides to nope right out of there. The phantom owl. It doesn't even move a muscle, just sitting there farming aura. Somewhere else nearby, we see a pink-haired girl apparently using magic on her eye. Along with her adventurer party, she reports only seeing a harmless little creature nearby. The group complains that the forest is empty and that their magical comms got cut off for some reason. Our little slime is completely terrified after the owl locked eyes with him. He dashes to the river, thinking he'll be safe on the other side, but has no clue how to cross it. Then, he has the genius idea to use a law of physics to launch himself. Because of that, our MC uses his slime shot to blast himself across to the other side. He makes it across, but loses 80 health from the crash landing. Even beat up, he keeps spamming the skill to run away as fast as possible. Out of breath, he stops behind a tree and wonders if he is finally out of the woods. To heal up, he munches on some wood, but thinks about how easily he almost got wiped out. Suddenly, a pair of red eyes pops up in the dark and scares the living daylights out of him. He thinks the owl tracked him down and feels a pressure way heavier than before. However, he realizes the presence isn't the owl and sees something else coming his way. Out of nowhere, a massive flaming paw crushes the ground right in front of him. Our MC is speechless seeing the sheer size of that freaky creature. Suddenly he notices something falling and wonders if that's a toe. A golden toe then floats right in front of him, dropping our hero's jaw. His gut tells him that if he eats that toe, he could evolve and get crazy strong. So he grabs onto the monster's foot to try and reach the golden toe. With that, he triggers his dissolve skill to try and melt that massive thing. He tries his hardest to break down the beast's skin, but it seems super tough. Even going all out, it's like he is just tickling the guy. The monster's skin seems to have a natural shield against his dissolve skill. Suddenly, the system announces the skill failed because the beast is too strong and untouchable. Because of that, his health starts dropping non-stop, and he feels his body being slowly eaten away. In a split-second choice, our hero decides to slice off the part of his body stuck to the monster. With that, he throws himself away from the creature and manages to escape his doom by a hair. Once on the dirt, he complains that his dissolve skill is garbage, while his health slowly regains. He figures the only way to grab that toe is to level up his skill and come back later. Suddenly, the ground shakes violently, and he wonders if it's an earthquake. Right under that massive toe, the ground starts caving in, and a giant sinkhole opens up, swallowing the toe into the earth. Our MC is completely shell-shocked by what just went down. Seeing he is right in the drop zone, he uses his skill to make a break for it. Stuck on the tree, he realizes he almost got caught in the shockwave. The massive crater starts closing back up, while our little slime is still catching his breath from almost getting swallowed whole. Terrified, he realizes the outside world is way more dangerous than he thought. He gets that his only option is to lay low and eat to get stronger. We get a shot of that toe that got swallowed by the earth. But soon enough, the danger lurking under the dirt is revealed, showing off rows of massive, razor-sharp teeth. Then the monster that gave off that crazy aura to our little slime before finally shows its terrifying true form. Our little slime maps out a safe route far, far away from that scary owl. Reaching a tree, he decides to set up his temporary base there so he can recover his clones the next day. So he uses his dissolve skill on the trunk to clear a path. The game plan is to make a tiny entrance and a wider space inside to keep the big monsters out. Determined and sporting a makeshift hard hat, he kicks off the construction of his bunker. Working hard, our MC spams dissolve to carve out the tunnel. At the doorway, he tactically plants a toxic mushroom to act as a glowing booby trap. Finally wiped out, he crashes on a bed of leaves, feeling a huge wave of relief. The system chimes that the temporary base quest was completed successfully, but the final result looks way different from the floor plan he had in his head. Just to be safe, he grabs a sharp stick to use as a weapon. Feeling like the place is on maximum lockdown, he falls into a deep, peaceful sleep. However, an annoying, endless buzzing totally ruins his nap. Stressed by the noise, he peeks through the hole, complaining that they are ruining his peace and quiet. Outside, a colossal swarm of giant wasps is buzzing by, which quickly gives him a bright idea. Wasting no time, he shoots a blast of slime right into the middle of the swarm. The shot hits dead center, knocking one of the wasps out of the sky instantly. Right after, our hero pops up at the entrance, weighting them down just to taunt them. Furious at the disrespect, the giant wasps dive-bomb the tree with everything they have. With that, he quickly shrinks down and slips back into the safety of his hideout. The bugs try to storm the hole, aggressively attacking the narrow opening. Inside, the little slime just kicks back, knowing they are only going to stick to him while the system rings with all the XP he is gaining. Since he is basically living glue, the bugs white themselves out, attacking him, filling up his XP bar. Far from there, the forest seems peaceful while the wasps fly overhead. But hanging high up in a massive tree, there is a colossal, bizarre nest. Our MC quietly creeps along a branch, checking out the structure. He cheers inside for finally finding the enemy base. Suddenly, a shift in the air catches his eye, putting him on high alert. A black cloud of wasps drops from the sky, coming right at him like an actual storm. They attack without mercy, but the little slime just laughs it off, knowing he is immune to that kind of physical damage. The swarm completely blankets the little slime, forming a ball of furious bugs. The system flashes a super high temperature warning, telling him his cells are starting to cook. Taking continuous damage, he is shocked to realize they use heat tactics to suffocate enemies. Desperate to shake them off, he fires his cytoplasm blast, blowing slime in all directions. But to his surprise, one of the wasps casts a defensive wax barrier. The shield perfectly blocks the bullet's impact, saving the bug. Analyzing the situation, our hero figures the nest guards are way higher tier than the regular wasps outside. At that moment, a massive soldier readies its sharp stinger for a direct hit. Nearby, a bug's leg waves a glowing twig around like a magic wand. The MC stares down a full-blown military squad of workers, guards, and even mages calling in backup. Realizing how evolved the species is, he confirms those bugs actually learned how to use magic. The mage wasp channels its energy, charging up a dangerous spell. Meanwhile, the frontline charges in, tearing through the air in a lethal dive. Refusing to back down, he focuses his own strength, locking and loading another round of his attack. With pinpoint aim, he launches dozens of spikes made from his own body straight into the wave of enemies. The projectiles pierce multiple wasps mid-air, dealing some serious damage to the front line. However, the sheer number of enemies is overwhelming, and every shot drains his own health, putting him in a tight spot. Good thing he is stuck to a thick branch, so he can just dissolve the wood to insta-heal. On the next rush, another guard pulls out the wax shield to block the slime. Seeing more defenses popping up, he thinks about throwing a rock, but remembers he only has one left in his inventory. Taking advantage of the opening, the soldier wasps dive in for a brutal strike. Their stingers dig deep into the MC's soft body, pinning the bugs right in place. But instead of panicking, he thinks it's great that the enemies delivered themselves right into his mouth. Acting fast, he activates his skill, melting and devouring all the monsters trapped inside him. Savoring the easy victory, he gladly accepts this special delivery. The system warns him that he obtained stingers as loot, but his inventory space is completely full. To fix this, he turns one of the collected stingers into heavy ammo, firing it with full force. The impact of the natural spear shatters the wax barrier and pierces the guard without any trouble. Seeing her defenses crumble, the mage lets out a buzz, ordering the troops to fall back. Obeying the command, the surviving swarm retreats, heading back to the safety of the giant nest. Feeling overly confident, the MC mocks their retreat, asking if they finally understand how powerful he is. But the teasing is short-lived, as the wasp mage raises her wand for a new spell. The air heats up rapidly, while a fiery energy starts to take shape. Sweating cold, he tries to play it off, saying he just wanted a little taste of their honey. Ignoring the excuses, the insect conjures a blazing fireball aimed right at him. With a furious buzz, the mage unleashes the destructive magic without mercy. The hit lands perfectly, toasting our little slime and draining a lot of health points in the blink of an eye. Without giving him a break, the enemy continues the bombardment, preparing a rain of fireballs. Desperate, he slides down the tree, healing himself with the wood, and realizes that fire magic means game over. The flames explode on the branch, destroying the spot where he was just milliseconds ago. Running for his survival, he turns his body and prepares a desperate counterattack. He then shoots a barrage of slime projectiles at his pursuers to buy some time. But to his bad luck, two guards join forces, combining their giant wax shields. The double barrier blocks the shots with absurd ease, deflecting everything. Seeing the enemies play, our hero cries out in outrage, thinking it's totally unfair for them to use group reinforcements. Refusing to give up, the little slime fires an explosive blast from inside the hole to try and push the enemies away. In response, the wasp mage activates a glowing magic circle to conjure a swarm summon. Dozens of new wasps quickly start sprouting from the back of the conjuring insect. Furious, the newcomers dart through the air, ready for the offensive. At that moment, the entire battalion charges at the trunk, completely focusing on our MC's hiding spot. But he doesn't just sit there and launches a volley of explosions against the flying insects. The shots hit the mark, taking down several enemies in an intense flash. Realizing the tight spot he's in, he throws himself out of the hole, landing heavily on a branch right below. Meanwhile, the wasp mage raises her wand, preparing yet another dirty trick. Our hero tries to hold on tight to the branch, swaying so he doesn't fall. However, two worker wasps fly over and slice the base of the branch with ease. Without any support, the little slime goes into freefall, being closely followed by the furious swarm. Down below, the mage already has a massive spell loaded in a circle on the ground. Then, she fires a colossal fireball that shoots up, cutting through the air. The giant flaming attack charges straight at the MC and the wasps themselves, who are falling right alongside him. The blazing sphere completely swallows the area where the hero was dropping. A devastating explosion sets the forest ablaze, wiping out everything around it. On the ground, the mages sigh in exhaustion after spending so much energy on the spell. Only pieces of burnt wood and defeated insects rain down from the flames. One of the workers watches closely, trying to confirm if the target was finally eliminated. The guards patrol the air, holding their shields as they search for any sign of survival. Suddenly, one of them gets a jump scare, hearing a weird buzzing sound coming from nearby. In a stealthy attack, the little slime reappears, stuck right onto the trunk of the gigantic tree. Immediately, the surviving wasps dash in his direction to strike. They sink their jaws into his soft body, but he mocks them, saying those few units can't stop him. The MC reveals that he used his own body to dig tunnels inside the tree, spreading his secret network toward the hive. He explains that he had to sacrifice a large chunk of his health to create a clone and act as a decoy for the troops. With the bait falling under enemy fire, the path was clear for his real body to advance through the internal passage. Seizing the opening, the original part bursts out of the wood, surprising everyone. Quickly, he activates his exploration skill, spreading his filaments throughout the hive's structure. The tree's sensory map lights up in his mind, showing every tunnel and chamber of the giant nest. Investigating the holes, he skips the nursery full of larvae, stating that's not the right route. Checking another tunnel infested with eggs, he realizes he took the wrong path again. But soon he bumps into a glowing golden chamber and is amazed to see the massive stockpile of honey. Focused on the mission, he ignores the food for now, deciding to go for the main prize first. With brute force, the little slime busts down the wall of a gigantic chamber in the center of the nest. Dropping right into the middle of the room, he celebrates finally finding his target. Right in front of him rests the colossal and defenseless queen of the swarm on top of a soft carpet. The alarm sounds, and dozens of heavily armed royal guards invade the room. Red eyes glow with fury as the elite battalion surrounds the intruder from all sides. Wasting no time, the hero expands and grabs the queen, warning everyone not to move. The gigantic leader of the nest lets out a high-pitched cry of despair as she is crushed by the slime. Pressured, the guards hesitate in the air, holding their spears and shields steady. But blind loyalty speaks louder, and the troops advance together in a single lethal block to save their monarch. Facing the reckless charge, the MC regrets seeing that there's no reasoning with those irrational insects. Accepting the battle, he drives brutal spikes into the queen, taking the monarch down in a messy defeat. One of the royal guards watches the scene in absolute shock, seeing their leader taken out right in front of them. Immediately, the command structure breaks and the entire hive collapses, tossing the disoriented wasps around. Our hero concludes that eliminating the commander disabled the hive mind, causing all the lesser monsters to perish on the spot. The system triggers continuous alerts that he jumped from level 15 straight to level 17 by absorbing all that experience. Night falls in the forest, while the level up messages keep popping up in his vision non-stop. Tired and dripping slime, he finally lands safely on the damp grass down below. His stats screen now proudly displays level 21 along with the newly distributed points. Analyzing the updates, he is surprised to find he gained a central command skill to control subordinates. However, he grumbles in frustration, noticing he failed to put points into decomposition because he needed to max out pulsation first. At least his inventory is packed with the valuable wasp honey and dozens of other important items recovered from the battle. Taking a deep breath in the middle of the dark woods, the little slime tries to rest after that absolute chaos. Bathed in the moonlight, he confesses feeling a strange tightness in his chest, even though he doesn't have a physical heart anymore. Thinking about how he devoured snails, spiders, and crabs, he feels he has officially stepped onto the predator's path, feeling like a villain. In his dramatic imagination, a small crab cries face down on the table, asking why his dad didn't come back to play. In the fictional memory, the wife listened to the crab husband explain that he would need to work late and couldn't play today. The mother tried to comfort the little one, saying his dad worked hard for them and asked for understanding. The hours drag on the wall clock, leaving the house in an agonizing silence. Worried about the delay, the mother grabs her phone and suggests they go out to the street to look for her husband. Facing the harsh wind outside, the two walk hand in hand through the dark neighborhood. Suddenly, they spot a trembling silhouette staggering in a dimly lit alley. The little one points his finger full of joy, thinking he finally found his beloved dad. The mother tells the little guy to run over and help, figuring he must be tipsy and walking the wrong way. Smiling innocently, the boy quickly approaches that figure from behind, calling out to him. But the shadow turns its face, revealing itself to be the acid snail monster, which mocks them, saying his dad tasted delicious. Faced with a brutal nightmare, the little crab lets out a deafening scream of absolute terror, crying over the loss. Back to reality in the swampy forest, the little slime stands still on the grass, shaking his back. Sighing deeply, he pushes the human guilt out of his mind, concluding he has no control over the brutality of an isekai world. Surrounded by dozens of red eyes in the dark, the hero fully accepts that survival of the fittest is the only rule that matters. Determined to move forward, he initiates the slime pulse, setting off to retrieve the clone left behind earlier, expecting new surprises. Pulsing through the dark woods, the little slime sneaks his way through the dense brush. In the distance, a warm glow lights up the fog, totally catching his attention. Excited by the discovery, he picks up the pace, rushing toward the bright light. Hiding behind a thick tree, the MC peeks at what's in the clearing with maximum caution. Watching closely, he crosses his fingers internally that those figures are actually humans. At the camp, the warrior Rake rests leaning against a trunk, while the mage Cole asks if their teammate isn't afraid of getting pricked by that boar. From the bushes, our hero vibrates with joy upon confirming that he finally found normal people in this world. Relaxed, the young girl Nia answers that the spikes get soft and thanks her pet, mentioning they'll need him tomorrow to find the exit. At that, the leader regrets that the search mission for their master went wrong and takes the blame for them being completely lost. Cole points out that the magical communication was cut off, and the forest became a maze full of anomalies, taking the weight off the captain's shoulders. The mage states they don't need to worry so much about the master, since he is one of the strongest guys among the 8 great guilds. However, he recalls that despite all that unquestionable strength, the leader has been missing for exactly 2 years. There are rumors that the guild grew too fast, drawing the suspicion of the church, which sent the master on this mysterious mission. With direct orders from the Pope, he entered the swampy forest, and since that day, No one has had any news. Hearing this, the warrior sighs in frustration, saying the guild is almost done for and thanks the two for being the only ones to accept this risky mission. Cheerful, the girl guarantees she did it out of gratitude, because if the master hadn't opened the doors for unusual professions, she would never be an adventurer. The mage agrees and says that with her ability to tame intermediate magical beasts, any guild would be fighting to have her. Annoyed by her teammate's snobby tone, the tamer smacks him on the head, telling the chatterbox to shut up and go to sleep. Deep in the bushes, the little slime absorbs all that gossip like a sponge, paying maximum attention to the chat. Since he is a bit far, he struggles to hear properly, finding it vital to get information about that new world from the human's perspective. To solve his hearing problem, he decides to stretch a piece of his own body, using his tentacles as a makeshift antenna. Silently, the yellow slime moves across the ground, creeping right behind the mage's back. Lying on the ground with a book on his face, Cole coldly announces that a monster is approaching, making the MC freeze on the spot. Without warning, a violent spell erupts from the earth, and ice spikes pierce the little slime's soft body directly. The system immediately beeps, warning that the freezing attack was super effective, dropping the hero's escape speed entirely. Getting up calmly, the mage tells everyone not to freak out while the warrior readies his fire gauntlet, searching the brush for the enemy. The tamer looks in the direction of the attack and lets out a sigh of confusion, seeing the tiny threat trapped in the ice. Beside her, the huge metal boar snorts aggressively, baring its teeth ready to shred the intruder. With a brutal dash, the beast sinks its jaw into the little slime, ripping the tiny creature off the ice spike without any pity. Trapped in the sharp teeth, our MC widens his single eye, feeling the terror of elimination knocking on his door once again. Being shaken violently from side to side, he screams in despair as he becomes the boar's chew toy. The system's red screen flashes in his face, announcing the imminent game over while he accepts his cruel fate. Desperate, the pink-haired girl raises her hand and yells at her partner not to swallow that gross thing. Putting her hands on her hips, she scolds the animal, teaching him that they shouldn't take out harmless little creatures that are just passing by. Obeying its owner, the boar spits the little slime onto the ground, who falls all drooled on and squished. Gently, the tamer scoops the little yellow critter into her hands, checking if he hasn't suffered any serious damage. She analyzes the MC affectionately, commenting that she gets a very familiar vibe from him and asks if he wants to form a contract. Crying rivers of emotion, he idolizes the adventurer like a true angel, thinking he finally hit the jackpot in the isekai cliches. Ruining the mood, the leader tells her to stop messing around and not to waste mana on a low-level piece of trash while she hugs the creature. Crouched next to the boar, the girl tries to communicate, while the little slime finally realizes that the humans don't understand a single word he says. Determined to prove his intelligence, he puffs up his soft body, coming up with a brilliant plan to break the language barrier. Trembling with effort, the little monster focuses all his vital energy to stretch himself out. Slowly, he molds his tentacles, perfectly forming Chinese characters right at the girl's feet. Confused by that rhythmic gymnastics routine, the tamer calls the warrior over to see what the slime is doing. Totally proud of his improvised calligraphy, the hero confidently displays the message, sure that they will now respect his superior intelligence. Admiring the scene, Rake thinks it's amazing to see a slime pooping in such an artistic way, leaving the tamer speechless. Utterly outraged, the MC has a meltdown realizing that his world's language is completely useless there. Frustrated, he flees into the bushes, accepting that if he keeps trying, he'll end up as barbecue and decides to focus on the bright side of having found humans. The dead of night advances while the freezing breeze ripples the waters of the gloomy swamp. Returning to his territory, the hero prays quietly not to bump into the scary ghost owl. Keeping his focus, he activates his new central command skill, creating a bright green radar with his own eye. The system interface sweeps the surroundings, sending precise signals to locate the exact position of his separated part. Following the radar's route, he crosses the giant trees, flying low through the dangerous forest. With a precise jump, the hero lands on a rotten log, searching the bushes below. Sweeping the dark area, he turns his head from side to side looking for any sign of Yahello. Feeling the magical connection pulse strongly, he marvels at how overpowered and useful this tracking skill is. With no time to lose, the little slime shifts into fifth gear and dashes across the ground, cutting through the wind like a bullet. With his yellow aura glowing in the middle of the woods, he feels that the bait is very close. Braking hard, he lets out a silent whistle, impressed by the scene he finds right in front of him. Left alone in the brush, his old clone grew absurdly, turning into a mountain of slime after devouring who knows how many insects. Activating the return command, he touches the giant mass, devouring himself and flooding the system screen with insane experience warnings. An explosion of green light radiates from his body, marking the complete assimilation of all that accumulated power. Swollen like a balloon, he absorbed the secondary skills, leveling up his poison resistance instantly. The shower of notifications doesn't stop and announces in bold letters that he broke the experience bar, jumping straight to level 22. Heavy and satisfied, the MC crushes the grass, returning to his original size after dining on himself. Suddenly, the green radar starts beeping faintly again, indicating the presence of another little piece lost around there. Confused by the signal's fluctuation, he searches the thicket, cursing the delay in finding the rest of his free experience package. Turning toward the mushrooms, he finally focuses his eye on a small blur moving behind a rock. Furious, he catches a darn acid snail violently chewing on his precious clone piece. Mad about the theft, the hero takes a breath and fires a violent jet of slime right into the critter's toothy face. Fallen on the dirty ground, the mini-clone trembles in fear, covered in bite marks after almost becoming a slug's dinner. With a tear rolling down, the MC goes into full protective dad mode, swearing he'll save his wrongfully attacked baby from that ugly monster. Dragging his soft body, he crawls confidently through the short grass to rescue what is rightfully his. With a deafening crack, a gigantic red tongue drops from the sky like a whip, completely smashing the area where the clone was. In the darkness, the huge predator frog swallows the snail and the clone in one single bite, letting out a satisfied croak for the combo snack. Furious at the sight, the MC points at the frog, demanding that it pays dearly for devouring his baby. With tears streaming from his eye, he swears, payback against the gross monster. Wasting no time, the little slime fires his skill, throwing several chunks of his own body as deadly projectiles. The attack hits the predator's face perfectly, making the creature stagger back from the violent impact. Confident in his new strength, the hero mocks it, telling the beast to choke, and thinks he could even beat that giant bird now. However, he notices something weird in the target's behavior and goes on high alert. Opening its mouth, the giant frog shows its intact tongue, letting out a sinister smoke while staring down its prey. Quickly, the amphibian takes a massive leap, vanishing among the trees of the dark forest. With a heavy thud, the beast dives back down, plunging straight into the swamp's gloomy waters. Watching from the rock, the MC thinks the enemy is trying to run away and warns that it will only happen in its dreams. Hiding underwater, the predator leaves only its eyes out, letting out a threatening croak. Without hesitating, the hero launches another volley of slime shots right in the aquatic monster's direction. But the attacks just hit the surface, creating useless splashes in the river. Using the environment to its advantage, the giant frog moves at high speed underwater, cutting through the current. Annoyed by the cowardly tactic, the MC curses, realizing he can't do anything as long as the target stays submerged. Suddenly, the enormous amphibian leaps, breaking the water surface with pure aggression. Seeing the charge, the little slime celebrates, remembering that amphibians need to breathe, and calls game over for that beast. Yet, the predator lands softly on a leaf, showing perfect control over its own weight. Opening its terrifying maw, the monster preps a charged strike, flexing its colossal tongue. The muscle mass whips the air violently, tearing apart the rock where the hero stood with a brutal snap. Dodging narrowly, the MC jumps into the air, firing yet another barrage of yellow projectiles. One of the shots hits right in the amphibian's eye, causing dark fluid to splatter right away. Ignoring the pain, the beast shoots its tongue again, wrapping around the hero's soft body mid-jump. The MC's slime sticks firmly, creating a viscous tension as he tries to break free from the grip. Being pulled in, he realizes the beast lured him to the lake on purpose and admits he got cocky way too fast. With its injured eye still leaking, the predator reels its prey back in with absurd strength. Extremely irritated, the monster focuses entirely on swallowing that pesky meal once and for all. Falling towards the open jaw, the hero panics upon noticing he ran out of rocks to throw. Determined not to be dinner without a fight, he warns it to attack first and ask questions later, unleashing a massive blast of his own mass. Unfazed, the frog simply swallows the attacks with ease, chewing up the flying slime. Right after, the gigantic predator jumps and latches firmly onto the thick trunk of a tree. Without letting up, it unhinges its jaw, firing its fleshy whip for another assault. Caught off guard, the MC curses in terror as he is captured again by the sticky tongue. With an aggressive yank, the little slime is dragged downward, feeling the enemy's crushing strength. Desperate for his own survival, he stretches his tentacles, holding on as tight as he can to a tree root. A bizarre tug-of-war begins as he stammers, trembling to avoid becoming an amphibian snack. The monster intensifies the pull, keeping the target right in the sights of that terrifying throat. In a swift move, the situation flips, and the hero's elastic body completely tangles around the opponent's tongue. Using the tension to his advantage, the little slime launches himself like a slingshot straight at the critter's face, making it eat the impact. The brutal collision sends fluid flying far, knocking the gigantic predator down from up high. Completely dazed, the amphibian takes a violent backward dive, making waves in the swamp. Sighing in relief on top of the root, the MC admits that was a really close call. In the water, the beast's body sinks slowly, while dark fluid stains the surface around the impact zone. Silence takes over the dark area, leaving only the ripples to mark the enemy's resting place. Stuck to the wood, the hero regrets that the body fell into the water, preventing him from decomposing all that experience. Suddenly, the waters erupt violently, catching the MC completely off guard. A shockwave rises, ripping through the surface towards the treetops. The impact launches the predator's body in an absurdly fast ascent, soaring through the forest sky. Revealing its terrifying new form, the frog shows off glowing red eyes and bulging veins in an insane dive. Utterly shocked by the freak show, the hero curses in fear while the beast croaks like a maniac. The mutant abomination digs its claws into the wood, displaying an uncontrollable, savage fury. Opening its mouth, the beast reveals a horrific tongue that splits into two messy whips filled with sharp teeth. In a lightning-fast attack, one of the tentacles hits the little slime dead on, slamming him brutally against the trunk. The elastic body bounces around the area, trying to dodge that flurry of frantic strikes. Using his agility, the MC stretches his tentacles to the max, swinging between the branches to get away. Like a rubber ball, the yellow hero bounces quickly from trunk to trunk, gaining distance from the beast. Logically, he deduces that a smart mole doesn't fight at a disadvantage and wonders if the creature has more transformations. Thinking it's super unfair for a regular monster to have such overpowered forms, he decides to retreat just to be safe. Refusing to let him run, the monster leaps after its prey, stretching its mutant tongues thirsty for payback. The whips tear through the ancient tree's bark, climbing in a relentless and terrifying chase. Totally out of control, the mutant frog lets out piercing shrieks, showing nothing but killer instinct. The savage attack finally reaches the target, dealing a critical hit that shaves off almost 200 health points from the little slime. The system beeps, warning about poison in his system, forcing the hero to admit his resistance failed this time. Without mercy, the predator lands another violent strike, completely throwing off the MC's escape. Trapped in that monstrous grip, the yellow mold is hurled brutally from up high, falling in a free dive. Hitting the ground, he loses just 1 health point, relieved to remember that physical attacks don't deal real impact damage to his anatomy. But the relief vanishes when the system blares an osmotic imbalance, warning upon noticing the plunge into fresh water. Taking advantage of the vulnerability, the aquatic nightmare dives beak first, with its jaw wide open for the finishing blow. With a muffled thud, the creature snaps its sharp jaws shut, swallowing everything that was on the surface. The dark waters calm down quickly, leaving only leaves floating in the deadly silence of the night. With a full belly, the beast chews slowly, keeping its bugged-out eyes open, savoring the well-deserved victory. But the next second, the sinister expression crumbles, and the amphibian feels something very wrong in its own stomach. Trapped in the toxic darkness, the hero takes continuous damage, losing health rapidly as he gets corroded from the inside. Using every last bit of vital strength he has, the little slime violently expands his own body, refusing to meet his end. Unable to hold back the absurd pressure, the predator bursts from the inside out in a grotesque, festival of guts, marking the end of the battle. Clutching its own glowing stomach, the frog realizes it's out of options to survive. Deciding to risk it all, the monster dives headfirst into the depths of the swamp. Kicking its legs in desperation, the beast sinks into the darkness while the internal pressure builds up. Meanwhile, green slime starts leaking violently from the wounds on the creature's back. Suffering an osmotic imbalance, the hero absorbs water like crazy and warns that he's going to fill the enemy up until it pops. Completely bloated, the amphibian widens its eyes, unable to believe that its internal volume just keeps growing non-stop. To guarantee the final blow, the MC consumes all the wasp honey in his inventory, recovering a ton of health. Taking the shape of a grotesque balloon, the predator is on the verge of popping, while the little slime forces it to swallow all of that. Unable to handle the colossal pressure, the beast's body finally bursts, scattering fluid and guts everywhere. From the wreckage emerges a gigantic and menacing version of the yellow mold, breaking through the water's surface. With the victory secured, he receives the experience and acquires a new antibody from decomposing the body. Looking at his own size from way up there, the hero is amazed at how giant he ended up becoming. The system alerts him that his osmotic pressure regulation has reached maximum level and that the extra health will vanish in 1 hour. Now the MC's body can naturally expel excess water, balancing his internal structure. Realizing that the size increase gave him enough fluids to control this pressure, he celebrates the unexpected achievement. But panic sets in when he remembers that his more than 10,000 extra health points will disappear very soon. Determined not to waste the sacrifice of all his items, he decides he needs to make the most of this advantage. His imagination runs wild, thinking about becoming a colossal monster capable of wiping out entire cities. Having a brilliant idea, the MC jokingly asks if anyone remembers that little game about rolling a sticky ball. Acting like an avalanche, he charges down the river, swallowing everything in his path and gaining points continuously. The violent sweep goes on without breaks, decomposing dozens of aquatic creatures without the slightest effort. At the bottom of the river, some larger fish notice the disturbance and look up, visibly worried. Without warning, the giant mass crashes down on them, causing a massive rumble in the water. But soon the hero realizes that water resistance makes him too slow, making it hard to hunt such agile enemies. Concluding that staying there is a pure waste of time, he decides that heading back to dry land is the best plan. Using all his weight and strength, the giant mold propels his body forward, splashing water everywhere. With a heavy thud, he lands on the edge of the swamp, crushing the rocks and roots around him. His gelatinous structure settles onto the soil, ready to start the real rampage through the forest. Sliding rapidly over the dark dirt, the little slime advances, sweeping away the debris in his path. Further ahead, 2 small furry animals stop out of curiosity when they see that green mountain approaching. Giving the little critters a good scare, the MC pops up out of nowhere, greeting the duo by surprise. Without losing a beat, the mold pushes forward quickly, dropping one of his fish on the ground as he passes. The little animals stare at the food in fear, while the slime lets them know he'll take the rest of the catch. In the background, the 2 furry ones start eating in peace, while the walking threat slowly moves away. Moving forward, he decides to spare cute monsters as the ultimate proof that he still has a human soul. Just ahead, the hero spots a lonely squirrel and comments that there's another harmless creature. But out of nowhere, the cute critter covers itself in intense flames, showing a totally evil expression. Without the slightest warning, the demonic rodent fires a colossal fireball towards the target. Taking the hit point blank, the MC loses a lot of health, complaining that fire magic is super effective against him. Annoyed by the unprovoked aggression, he warns that the little guy can't blame him for the severe retaliation. Crushing the enemy with his monstrous weight, the little slime states that playing with fire is strictly forbidden around there. In a matter of seconds, only the aggressor's bones are left, being completely decomposed by the system. Suddenly, sharp wooden spikes erupt from the ground with extreme violence right nearby. A giant lizard is caught dead on by the attack, getting pierced and tossed into the air without any defense. Revealing its terrifying form, a tree monster shows off tentacles and a split trunk full of teeth. Caught in the thorn trap, the lizard coughs as it desperately tries to break free. In immediate response, the beast unhinges its jaw and fires a torrent of corrosive acid. The accurate stream hits the wooden freak perfectly, spreading the dangerous liquid across the scene. Taking heavy damage, the plant creature begins to melt as the acid consumes its body rapidly. Counterattacking instantly, the monster launches a glowing, sticky capsule towards the forest. The weird projectile perfectly hits an old severed log in the middle of the damp dirt. In the blink of an eye, the dead wood comes to life and grows, transforming into an identical new enemy. Boiling with rage, the reptile growls loudly, ignoring the severe wounds across its own body. Using its savage dash, the beast charges at high speed, cutting through the wind with sheer brutality. With a crushing blow, the sharp claws shred the tree monster's structure without any trouble. Displaying absurd agility, the lizard jumps through the canopy, unleashing multiple extremely fast attacks. Chunks of branches fly everywhere, showing the destructive power of that furious combo. But during a tiny gap in its defense, one of the tentacles grabs the attacker's arm firmly in mid-air. Seizing the chance, the mutant tree sprouts explosive spores along its twisted limbs. Giving no chance to escape, the seeds detonate, causing a massive explosion at point-blank range. Focused purely on survival, the reptile squints, trying not to lose consciousness in the fight. The flash from the blast burns the beast's vision, making a lot of fluid stream down its ruined face. Completely blind, the lizard swings its claws in pure panic, slashing the empty air around it. To avoid taking more damage, the creature takes a huge leap backward, getting away from the danger zone. The impact of the landing shatters the stone floor, highlighting the absurd weight of that beast. Skidding through the dirt, the predator finally manages to break its totally out-of-control fall. Sticking its forked tongue out, the battered warrior quickly activates its thermal vision. Through the emitted heat, the monster manages to map the exact location of the threat amidst the darkness. With the target locked, it leaps once more, building up serious momentum with its muscular legs. Spinning its own body like a circular saw, the reptile cuts through the air with maximum aggression. Coming down hard, the beast uses its long tail as a lethal scythe in a crushing dive. A massive shockwave kicks up dust and debris the exact moment the brutal strike lands. Unable to withstand the blade, the cursed tree is chopped to pieces, losing the battle for good. Panting and drooling heavily, the winner tries to catch its breath after burning so much energy in combat. Just then, a colossal shadow covers the lizard, which freezes in sheer terror upon noticing a terrifying presence approaching. Without any warning, a colossal mouth bursts from the ground, brutally tearing apart and devouring that lizard. Rolling through like a steamroller, the little slime crushes everything in his path, wiping the area completely clean. The system then announces that a strange object was discovered and successfully decomposed, generating a ton of experience. With a log stuck in his back, the MC gets confused, trying to figure out what this strange object is. Shrugging it off, the little slime decides to keep rolling to swallow as much as possible before his time runs out. Suspicious, the hero notices something is wrong because the area he destroyed should be way bigger. Looking back, he can't understand how the forest is still so dense after all the damage he did. Suddenly, the entire ground begins to shake, making him wonder if the earth itself is moving. Right then, gigantic spikes shoot up towards the night sky, revealing a bizarre structure. The little slime stands there, watching the tip of that massive formation emerge right beside him. The whole ground lifts up, revealing that the entire area was actually an absurdly scaled creature. Not understanding a thing, the MC thinks he's seeing things and questions the lack of sound from those explosions. But the time limit runs out right on cue, and the little slime deflates like a balloon, losing all that size. Returning to his original form, the tiny hero sighs in relief, realizing playtime is over. A new screen pops up, confirming he reached level 49, earning the title of Lord of Weak Creatures. Celebrating hard, the MC is super hyped to have already reached such a high level so fast. But reading the new title, he sarcastically asks if he's now the final boss of kindergarten. The system warns that his space is full, and the mold feels sick just looking at all the junk piled up in his inventory. Finding it disgusting, the little slime starts spitting out all the useless items he stored non-stop. A literal rain of bones and pieces of wood falls to the ground, forming a massive pile. Panting, the hero relaxes after managing to empty it all out. Relieved to be lighter, he thinks about what to do now since he won't gain any experience for the next hour. Suddenly, a notification informs him that upon reaching level 60, he will be able to choose to evolve or change classes. Thrilled, the MC concludes that this is the right path to becoming a powerful monster. His mind goes wild, imagining a buffed-up humanoid form full of power to lay down the law in the forest. Smiling ear to ear, the mold already dreams of learning magic and conquering that entire other world with this evolution. At that moment, a few shadows pass swiftly across the sky, catching his attention. Looking up, he spots a small group of insects crossing the forest. He instantly recognizes those giant wasps capable of using magic and is surprised to see the trio working together. Driven by curiosity, the MC takes a leap and decides to follow the monsters to investigate the situation. Landing stealthily behind a tree, the little slime hides to watch everything from a distance. In front of him, a chaotic scenario unfolds, with dozens of hanging hives and insects flying around like crazy. Shocked by the scale, the MC wonders if that is an evolved, collective version of the swarm. In the middle of the nest, the giant wasps aggressively throw themselves at an unwanted intruder. The beasts aimed their attacks straight at the long legs of a giant creature that invaded their territory. Tanking the hits, the invader is revealed to be a gigantic bird that mercilessly stomps on the nests. With its sharp beak, the bird devours the larvae straight from the hive, having a total feast. Hidden away, the mold quickly recognizes that bizarre bird from before, but finds it weird that its color has changed a lot. Ignoring the defense, the colossal bird keeps wrecking everything and eating the wasps casually. One of the insects tries to stab the enemy's back with its stinger, but the strike deals 0 damage. Another wasp tries its luck against the snakehead attached to the bird's tail, but also fails miserably. In pure desperation, the entire swarm groups up, covering the predator completely in a yellow and black mass. However, the creature shakes itself violently, scattering the attackers in all directions without breaking a sweat. Realizing they're not doing anything, the wasps conjure magic circles in the air, creating several fireballs at the same time. A shower of blazing flames rains down from the sky, aiming directly at the bold invader. The projectiles hit the ground, generating a series of deafening explosions that sweep the scene. Safe from the impact, the little slime notes that the power of these wasps evolved in a really absurd way. In the center of the flames, the giant bird takes the direct hit from the concentrated magical attack. Flapping its wings with extreme violence, the monster clears away all the fire around it in the blink of an eye. Intact and threatening, the beast lets out a battle cry, proving the magic didn't leave a single scratch. Shock takes over the insects, who instinctively back away from that terrifying resilience. With thermal vision, the snaketail tracks the survivors through the smoke and strikes quickly. Absorbing the flames from the battlefield, the reptilian head spits a devastating stream of fire at the swarm. With a fast move, the snake lunges and bites a wasp out of the air without any pity. The pressure of the fangs tears the insect's shell, squirting green fluid everywhere. Watching the massacre, the MC plans to collect the wasps' bodies to decompose later and score more points. The beast's tail now switches elements and conjures a dangerous advanced ice spell. Nearby, that group of adventurers shows up, and the captain warns everyone not to mess around with a Lord-level monster. The mold recognizes the humans right away and deduces they came on a mission to hunt that bizarre bird. Wasting no time, the snake-shaped tail fires the massive ice spike at full speed toward the team. The wild bird finishes the move by launching multiple freezing projectiles at the intruders. Stepping up to the front, the warrior raises his shield and tells the mage to prep that heavy spell to finish the fight. The mage thanks the captain for the cover and guarantees he'll take down the beast with just one lethal strike. The bird does a low flyby and attacks from top to bottom with its deadly, super sharp claws. Taking the brute impact, the shielder groans in pain but manages to hold off the violent charge with his shield. The adventurer feels the jolt and realizes the beast got way stronger after snacking on the entire hive. Using his counterattack skill, the warrior pushes the barrier out, generating a strong, magical shockwave. The hit pushes the bird's colossal body back, giving the team a brief moment to breathe. But from the side, the snakehead uses the distraction and sneaks an attack straight for the captain's neck. Luckily, the adventurer girl spots the trap and commands her armored boar to use tackle with full force. The pet hits the snake head-on, intercepting the fatal bite at the absolute last second. Relieved by the timely help, the warrior smiles and confesses to his teammate that it was super close to ending badly. Regaining its balance, the beast steps back while glaring at the enemies with pure fury in its eyes. The bird puffs its chest deeply, starting to gather an absurd amount of thermal energy in its throat. Showing no mercy, the monster unleashes a sea of incandescent flames, sweeping absolutely everything in its path. Facing that brutal blast of fire, the mage instantly recognizes they're dealing with a top-tier spell. Slamming his staff on the ground, the captain warns the group that they need to defend against that attack with everything they've got. Cole acts fast and conjures a giant glacial barrier to protect the squad from the firestorm. The violent flames smash right into the ice wall, creating an insane power struggle between the two elements. The heat spreads across the area, leaving the little slime absolutely terrified in his hiding spot. Under the continuous pressure of the enemy attack, the barrier starts melting fast and won't hold up for much longer. Holding the defense with difficulty, the warrior grits his teeth, trying to endure that hellish temperature. Unable to take the pressure anymore, the magic shatters into thousands of pieces, leaving the group completely exposed. The shockwave sweeps the area, pushing the adventurers back as smoke takes over the battlefield. Hiding behind a rock, the MC is amazed by the power and really wants to learn how to use spells like that. Panting, the mage complains that he wasted his cast for nothing and will be out of heavy spells for a while. Right then, the captain gives the order for Nia to use her metal beast as cover so he can push forward. The girl gets the message and orders her armored boar to attack by firing its spiky back. A barrage of needles flies swiftly toward the giant bird to try and create a distraction. Taking advantage of the opening, Rake ducks down and focuses 100% of his strength for a decisive strike. With an impressive jump, the team leader flies high into the night sky, aiming right at the enemy. The giant bird widens its eyes, noticing the dangerous approach of the adventurer right above it. Putting all his energy into his weapon, the warrior comes down with a brutal meteor hammer smash. The attack hits the creature perfectly, crushing its skull against the ground with colossal force. The impact kicks up a cloud of dust as the monster collapses, completely defeated in front of everyone. The beast's head is wrecked in the dirt, bleeding heavily and appearing to have zero life left in it. Relieved that the fight is over, the captain takes a deep breath and declares that the main threat has finally been dealt with. Cole praises his teammates' insane strength for taking down a monster of that scary level with just one direct hit. Watching it all, the mold concludes he needs to ally with the humans as soon as possible to have any chance in the forest. Rake then asks the tamer to read the corpse's memories and look for any clues about their missing master. But in a surprise attack, the snake tail strikes and sinks its fangs directly into the leader's neck. In the exact same instant, the colossal bird's smashed head begins to writhe weirdly in the dirt. The fatal wound closes in the blink of an eye, and the creature regains consciousness as if nothing had happened. An ice spike cuts through the air, tearing the snake's head off to free the warrior from that poisonous strike. The mage yells that the beast's venom petrifies and orders them to give the captain the healing potion immediately. Desperate, the pink-haired girl runs to her friend and tries to administer the healing potion while he begins to suffocate. She pours the glowing green liquid into his mouth, hoping to reverse the fatal petrification process. The man manages to swallow the potion, but his throat is already turning to stone, causing indescribable pain. Right before the team's horrified eyes, the leader entirely turns into a rigid statue, falling hard to the ground. The tamer drops to her knees, calling out to her friend as the reality of the tragedy starts to hit heavy. Keeping his cool, the mage shouts that there's no time to cry and tells his partner to run away from there as fast as possible. In shock, the girl stammers, hesitating to abandon her teammate's body in that awful situation. Cole forces her onto the mount, warning that the monster stole the captain's energy and they need to retreat. Behind them, the creature gets up, flapping its wings and letting out a furious squawk into the dark swamp. Fully healed, the bird locks its killer eyes onto the survivors, showing that the hunt has just begun. Sweating cold, the mage readies his staff to use everything he's got and ensure his partner's escape. He admits he underestimated the beast, but swears that if they come back with the church's help in 1 week, the captain can still be saved. Annoyed by the creature's absurd regeneration, he decides to stay behind and take control of the battle by himself. With heavy steps, the bird steps forward, cracking the ground and displaying all its threatening size against the human. Trembling on top of the boar, Nia asks what they should do now to get out of that deadly mess. The mage tells her not to be afraid because he has everything planned out and will clear a path using his own strength. He casts an intermediate spell, firing a machine gun of ice spikes toward the enemy. The projectiles hit the monster's claws, brutally pinning the creature to the rocky dirt floor. Several other freezing spears strike the beast, pinning its wings and completely limiting its movements. Caught by surprise, the bird shrieks in anger, trying to break free from that ice trap without success. Checking the enemy's energy, Cole warns that the beast is going to use advanced fire again and screams for his teammate to just run. He claims he has no choice, because if he doesn't trap the creature there, neither of them will survive to tell the story. Glancing over his shoulder, the man gives a sad smile and thanks the girl for giving him the healing potion earlier. Right after, he raises another huge glacial barrier to try and clash head-on with the devastating flame approaching. With tears in her eyes, the tamer watches her companion sacrifice himself to give her a real chance to escape. Knowing what she has to do, she commands the metal boar to run as fast as possible through the trees. Holding back her tears, the adventurer reminds herself that she needs to make it back and deliver the reports to the church. Then she summons her small-winged familiar, sad that their magical link had been cut off earlier. Trusting the owl's vision, the girl says it will be easier to find the exit and points the direction for the animal to go. Obeying the command, the little bird flaps its wings, leaving the branch to fly silently through the thick forest. However, the familiar owl starts glowing brightly, being covered by a very bizarre mystical aura. The animal's eye suddenly shifts into a glowing cross, showing that it underwent some kind of mutation. Noticing the scary change, the girl backs away terrified, calling out to her pet without understanding what is going on. Far away from there, a chaotic war zone shows mountains of defeated monsters and giant swords stuck in the ground. In the middle of the carnage rests Master Gon, staring at a floating green screen exactly like the MC's. The system warns the knight that his energy state limit is over and he will start losing health to pay off the debt. Panting inside the sturdy armor, the man just agrees with the notification, accepting the cost of his massive power. The view zooms out, revealing that the insane amount of rotting bodies forms an entire hill around him. At that moment, a sinister voice echoes from the shadows, pointing out the heavy exhaustion of the legendary human warrior. A gigantic monstrosity made of melted flesh and full of eyes reveals itself as the true king of the swamp forest. The freak asks who he was talking to and questions if it was this so-called system that made the guild grow so terrifyingly fast. The beast confesses that it set up that trap exactly to uncover the secrets behind this otherworldly intelligence. Offering an ultimatum, the abomination tells him to choose between becoming a corpse puppet or joining their grand plan. Showing not an ounce of fear, Gon tightens his grip on his sword hilt and warns that he has already thought the offer through. Standing up from the dead, the warrior draws his colossal weapon and declares that the only answer is to massacre all of them. The giant monster mocks him, saying it doesn't matter how many times the warrior tries because it's useless against an immortal, indestructible being. In silence, Gon just watches the bizarre freak form several gross tentacles right in front of him. The creature warns that human flesh has a limit and tells him to cooperate or he'll meet his end right there. Not caring much for the threats, the warrior simply opens his inventory screen on the system. Quickly, the master pulls out a mysterious flask full of a glowing golden liquid from inside the dimensional space. He breaks the glass container, unleashing the true holy water that was saved as his ultimate trump card. Startled by the radiant light, the eye-covered monster widens its face, unable to understand what that is. The sacred liquid explodes into an overwhelming golden energy, covering a good portion of the dark terrain around them. Calmly, the man walks to the flames, explaining that this water burns down to the soul, and he decided to use it since the real culprit showed up. Suffering from the burns, the beast screams in pain, cursing the human and asking where he got such a powerful sacred item. The villain deforms its own body, filled with hate, trying to endure that unbearable spiritual fire that consumes its essence. Then, the holy light intensifies even more, spreading cutting beams across the entire muddy swamp. The system blares a shrill red alert, warning Gon that the target is about to regenerate completely. Taking advantage of the opportunity, a brutal attack in the shape of a golden tornado tears through the battlefield with everything it has. The absurd force of the impact launches the gigantic remains of the shadow beast into the air as if they weighed absolutely nothing. Keeping his cool, the adventurer analyzes that his divine technique should destroy even the soul, making any magical healing impossible. But to his surprise, the villain respawns in the form of a red core, mocking that the knight's sacred trump card was useless. Recognizing the skill, the master deduces instantly that it's the power of adaptation and wonders how the beast got it so fast. The large floating eye thanks him ironically, reminding the human of a dragon emperor's finger he had chopped off earlier. The anomaly reveals that it only managed to locate and recover this lost part thanks to the energy of the holy water itself scattered across the scene. With complete control of the terrain, the shadow being used a dark corpse recovery technique to suck in the severed piece. The disgusting tentacles wrapped around the solid glowing chunk, pulling all of its brutal essence inside itself. Right after getting the fragment back, the abomination understood the warrior's strategy and used the time gained to absorb divine immunity. Confident in its new defense, the evil being states that if the human had used the blessed attack earlier, the battle would already be over. Declaring the end of the fight, the freak summons a colossal stone hand that erupts violently from the dark soil. The monstrous dirt structure comes down hard, mercilessly crushing the area where the legendary warrior was standing. Immediately after, dozens of other rocky claws rise from the dirt, piling up in a crushing and completely relentless attack. The sequential impact shakes the entire forest, kicking up huge boulders and dust in a massive wave of destruction. The whole perimeter turns into a truly chaotic crater thanks to the terrifying level of this abyssal earth-burying spell. However, underneath the rubble, Gon's magic spear glows in an emerald shade, activating the absolute absorption of the earth element. The warrior shatters the stone prison, leaping nimbly and using his energized weapon to escape his certain end. Mid-air, he executes a divine piercing technique, charging like a literal green missile straight at the floating target. Noticing the charge, the anomaly mocks that all gear has a limit and asks how long the human plans on fighting. Without wasting time, the creature unleashes a dark cry that materializes into a terrifying gigantic red shockwave. The two opposing energies collide in the sky, generating brutal friction between the spear's tip and the villain's lethal barrier. Due to the exaggerated force of the clash, the system beeps, warning that the magic item's durability is about to run out. Ignoring the danger warning, the adventurer grits his teeth and activates a concentrated short-range spiral force in his arm. Immediately, a new floating window flashes red, warning that this forbidden technique will cause irreversible physical damage. Determined to win, the leader states he doesn't care about the collateral damage and pushes his arm muscles beyond their limit. The absurd pressure of that desperate move finally shatters the magic spear's tip into dozens of bright pieces. But the sacrifice pays off, and the spiral energy manages to completely pierce through the enemy core's impenetrable defense. An intense explosion tears through the sky, splitting the dark attack right down the middle with totally overwhelming physical power. Back on the muddy ground, the master breathes heavily, his left arm shattered and completely battered. Even after taking a finishing blow, the monster begins to put itself back together, calling its rival a fool for insisting on a fight he's already lost. To make matters worse, the beast deforms its own scarlet flesh while mockingly asking if the man still thinks he can turn the tables. Leaning against a rock, Gon regrets holding back his skills and admits it was a terrible miscalculation not to go all out earlier. Above him, the colossal finger of the Dragon Emperor emerges from the clouds, descending like a sharp meteor to end the combat. Triumphant, the anomaly says its goodbyes, guaranteeing that no system would let him beat the combined force of the Holy Sea all by himself. The gigantic structure tears through the air, about to crush the tiny knight once and for all against the devastated earth. Yet, the warrior doesn't back down, and his cold eyes shine intensely under the shadow of his broken silver helmet. With a quick movement of his good hand, he pulls out an ancient scroll, emitting a strong, bizarre, and mysterious blue light. Upon opening the magic item, ghostly letters begin to flow through the air, forming a huge spectral scythe around him. The mystic paper reveals itself to be a direct favor from an underworld lord, emitting a corrupted red aura that chills the environment. Shocked by the reveal, the giant eye accuses the adventurer of being a hypocrite for using unholy magic while pretending to fight for good. In sheer panic, the creature desperately begs for the Pope's help to try and escape that imminent infernal punishment. Out of nowhere, A colossal skeletal hand bursts from the portal and grabs the red anomaly with everything it has, muffling its cries for help. Squeezing its fist mercilessly, the demonic strike crushes the villain in the blink of an eye, banishing its existence into oblivion. With the target eliminated, a purple energy rises to the muddy skies, completely changing the heavy atmosphere of the place. Metallic footsteps accompanied by sharp claws touch the rocky soil, marking the official arrival of this new, sinister entity. An incredibly tall and eerie skeletal being approaches the human knight and greets him, saying it's been a long time. The creature laughs at his misfortune, commenting that the man looks pathetic and recalling when he himself failed to invade that universe. As a reward, the dark entity offers to lend its shadowy power so the transmigrator can wipe out the church's enemies. Gon rejects the dangerous offer, severing his own injured arm in a clean cut to break the pact, stating they are now even. Annoyed by the refusal, the underworld being complains about the knight's cold attitude and decides to just leave behind a bitter piece of advice. The monster gives a mocking chuckle, warning that it has already seen the face of his demise hovering over the warrior before vanishing for good. After the intruder's departure, the devastated swamp returns to absolute silence, illuminated only by the loneliness of a crescent moon. A status screen pops up, showing that the master's health and mana points are in a critical state, almost at absolute zero. Exhausted and heavily battered, the man collapses on the cold earth, breathing with great difficulty as he stares at the red numbers on the display. The adventurer tries one last desperate play, asking the system if the hope summon worked, and begs it to open the communication channel. However, a giant warning beeps on the screen, stating that the connection failed categorically because the reincarnator systems are not linked. Far away from that clash of gods, our little slime receives a basic system warning that its decomposition failed on the target. The mold takes a good look at the fallen body in front of it and is shocked to realize the guild captain's body literally turned to stone. With no way to absorb that useless inorganic material, the gooey hero just slides away in frustration toward the base of the human statue. Soon, the little slime ball spots a magic club left near the fallen colleague and tells itself it's going to confiscate the gear since it has no owner. Thrilled with the free loot, the little monster pulls the metal bat with its gelatinous tentacles, thankful for the nice gift. Trying to figure out a way to reach the human city, the slime figures that helping them out would be a good way to hitch a ride. Using its new mobility, it stretches one of its sticky tentacles, moving quickly across the damp forest floor. Soon, the slime runs straight into a huge frozen wall and deduces that it must be the Ice Mage's spell. Excited about the situation, the MC assumes the guy must have already taken down that giant bird and plans to steal the remains. But prioritizing its own safety, it uses its exploration skill, creating a long stalk to peek over the barrier. As soon as its eye focuses on the other side, the little monster gets a massive jump scare from the grim scene in front of it. The colossal bird stands imposing in the middle of the clearing, staring right at the arrogant mage's frozen body. Without any hesitation, the snake that acts as the beast's tail swallows the adventurer's entire body in a single gulp. The giant brutally gulps down its prey, securing another heavy meal in the swamp's food chain. Right then, the creature's eyes glow with a vicious red tint, and it locks its attention on a new target further down. Terrified, the mold quickly retracts its stalk, regretting that the beast keeps getting stronger and fearing for the girl's life. Tearing through the skies, the ghostly owl dives at full speed, while Nia screams the name of her former pet in despair. The nosedive comes at an absurd speed, aiming straight for the injured tamer and her metal boar. Accepting the harsh reality, the girl warns her mount that the beast is no longer their ally and orders an immediate counterattack. The giant pig promptly obeys and fires a shower of metallic spikes from its own back toward the sky. Couldn't care less about the defense. The bird continues its insane dive while the girl screams its name. The monster's beak starts to glow with sharp energy, cutting the air in a finishing strike. Spinning its own body like a literal drill, the bird creates a tornado of blades that shreds the spike barrier to pieces. The brutal impact hits the ground, kicking up a storm of logs and dust that sweeps the two survivors away. The entire area is completely devastated by the force of that aerial assault, leaving deep marks in the earth. Heavy chunks of wood start falling from the skies amidst the dense smoke of the clash. Completely exhausted, the tamer tries to get up from the ground after tanking all the damage from that monstrous charge. Crying, the girl wonders why her precious pet ended up like that and regrets not having anyone else to save them. Gathering her last bit of strength, she hugs her mount's snout and promises to transfer mana to recover its energy. But the peace is short-lived as the giant lands heavily in front of them, letting out an intimidating and piercing screech. Instantly, the snakehead lunges forward, firing a strong blast of lethal magic energy straight at the girl. In an act of pure desperation, Nia screams, activating her mind control skill before it's too late. The trick works, and the beast is totally paralyzed mid-attack, its eyes glazed over in shock. Suddenly, the adventurer's consciousness is pulled into a cosmic void filled with rocky platforms and shining stars. Relieved, the mage sighs, noticing that the old contract didn't fail, and she finally managed to invade the beast's spiritual world. Walking through that surreal space, the girl notices a luminous silhouette glowing on the dark horizon. The figure reveals itself to be a beautiful, holy angel holding the little owl in her arms, leaving the owner beaming with joy. However, the euphoria fades fast, and the tamer finds it weird that such a noble angelic being is inside her pet's mind. With a gentle and serene smile, the mystic woman calls the young girl to step closer to the light. Out of nowhere, the angelic face tears open, revealing a terrifying demonic skull that screams for the intruder to hurry up and approach. Back in the real world, the breaking of that mental spell sends Nia into a panic, begging hysterically for help. Lying beside her, the board tries to react, grunting in anger, but it's too injured to protect its owner. Keeping up the momentum, the colossal monster lunges with its lethal beak, stopping just inches from piercing right through the girl's body. At that exact moment, a giant spiked club flies through the air and hits the bird's head dead on, deflecting the blow. The impressive force of the impact smashes the bird's face into the muddy ground, kicking up a crater and saving the mage from her end. Pulling the weapon back with its long elastic arm, the mold uses its own cells to create dozens of lethal clubs. Giving the target zero reaction time, the little slime bombards it, unleashing a rapid-fire barrage of dark spikes non-stop. It looks like the MC's accumulated experience finally paid off, as it spins the weapons overhead with absurd flexibility. Impressed by its own strength, it names the move and realizes that cellular control is way better than having human hands. Riding the violent momentum, the green hero stretches its limb and brings the spiked hammer down hard on the beast. Playing it smart, the creature uses its tail snake to block the heavy smash, generating a loud boom in the forest. From the recoil of the move, the slime shrinks in size and quickly snaps back to the ground, regaining its stance. The little green blob does a happy little wiggle, dropping next to its new weapon, super proud of what it just pulled off. Extremely emotional, the girl falls to her knees in front of her savior, thanking him from the bottom of her heart for the divine help. Very gently, she picks up the little monster in her hands, staring into its single eye with admiration. The tamer confesses she feels a super familiar aura coming from the slime and guarantees she's already figured out his true identity. In tears, she presses the MC against her chest and cries, saying the captain's soul reincarnated into that creature to come protect her. Hearing its owner's delusion, the boar lets out an awkward grunt, sweating bullets at that completely crazy deduction. The affectionate chat is cut short when a frightening shadow covers the two defenseless adventurers. Heavily battered, the bizarre bird rises from the rubble, screeching like crazy and ready to take everyone down right there. Focused on the fight, the girl promises to heal her mount, while the slime on the ground stealthily spreads its roots. Using maximum exploration skill, the hero creates a literal tracking web underneath the battlefield's mud. The MC's tactical vision maps out the whole area, pinpointing the exact position of the colossal owl from a distance. Knowing exactly where the enemy is, it binds the beast's legs with the underground tentacles and cheers for the trap. Without hesitating, the mole takes advantage of the immobile target and throws the metal club like a spear, hitting right in the giant animal's weak spot. The dirty hit causes indescribable pain, making the bird's eyes bulge out of its face as it lets out a high-pitched shriek. Unable to stand after that trauma to its sensitive spot, the huge monster topples forward, completely vulnerable. Seeing the opponent's guard wide open, the metal pig charges in and delivers a violent headbutt right to the beast's face. The girl celebrates the golden opportunity while the MC preps an offensive, spinning its armed tentacle. With an agile and ruthless motion, it swings the heavy club, cutting the wind in a fatal charge. Twisting its own cells like a spring, the hero activates its plasma cannon to boost the impact to the absolute limit. The weapon strikes the beast's neck with a brutal snap, blasting the monster and leaving a huge gap. A heavy shower sprays the swamp, confirming the critical hit and the final end of the flying threat. As the creature's remains fall in the distance, the mold retracts its super-stretched arm, regretting having used too much force on the final blow. The mood turns gloomy, and the tamer looks at her former pet's remains with deep sadness in her eyes. Turning her attention to her newest hero, she recognizes the little slime from the camp and concludes it was the same creature that invaded her vision. The girl crouches next to the slime, believing the critter followed her the whole trip because it liked her so much, showing a great connection. Lying on the ground, our little buddy stares at the girl's face, super anxious and thinking it's finally going to get what it wanted. A golden magic array lights up on the ground, and the adventurer smiles, asking if it accepts signing a pet contract with her. With an extremely sweet expression, the pink mage promises from the heart that she'll take very good care of the little monster from now on. Immediately, a red system alert pops up, warning that if the mold signs a servant contract with a human, it will lose the system forever. In shock, the little slime finds itself in a dilemma, having to choose between keeping its power or getting an owner. The warning keeps flashing on the holographic screen, forcing the hero to make a quick decision before it's too late. Right then, the MC's mind is pulled into a strange space, where a mysterious knight reveals he summoned it to fight against the evil church. Understanding that its entire arrival was that man's doing, our little buddy confesses it's too weak to save Nia. With that, it cuts to the chase and asks how it can help the situation. Staying calm, the warrior tells it to relax, explaining that when he reincarnated, he didn't know anything either and only got stronger by following the system's quests. The slime snaps back, complaining that the guy was lucky to be human and use magic, while it's just an organism fighting to survive. To the little creature's surprise, the knight takes off his helmet and reveals he's not human either, which is why he always wears armor. Confused, the hero asks what his true race is. The man then answers that he belongs to the race hated most by everyone and identifies himself as a goblin. Instantly, the slime remembers those short, ugly, and weak green creatures, even feeling pity for its new ally. Not mincing words, it states it would rather stay a mold than have those horrific looks. Agreeing with his partner, the warrior fully reveals himself, sporting an incredibly handsome appearance that's totally unexpected. Completely outraged, the little monster's jaw drops, thinking that level of beauty is a massive injustice. Clearing up the misunderstanding, the goblin assures that the slime's small body is much more practical for moving around in cities. Not having it, the green buddy starts jumping up and down, demanding to know why the visual difference between them is so absurd. Cutting the chatter, the elf warns that the church sent their most relentless paladin to hunt them down, and they need to act fast. Not understanding the rush, the MC asks what they should do now. Determined, the man points and declares he's going to transfer all of his magic and combat skills into his ally's body. In that same instant, a holographic panel appears, validating the synchronization process. The interface confirms the connection's success, and immediately, the data loading bar starts filling up. Amazed by the gift, the slime gets hyped at the chance to get so much power handed to it on a silver platter in one go. During the transfer, Gon regrets trusting the religious leader and confesses he fell into a fatal trap, believing he was helping the people. He explains that the fight drained his strength, but also destroyed the church's trump cards, asking for the slime's help for future dangers. As the process hits 2%, the green energy keeps flowing intensely through the spiritual environment. Curious, the little monster asks what exactly the Pope did to deserve so much hate, hoping it's not the cliché of taking over the world. Shaking his head, the warrior reveals that the enemies want to sacrifice all life on the planet to gain energy and ascend to a higher universe. The little slime gulps, terrified by the scale of the villainous plan, and asks how they intend to wipe everyone out. To explain the situation, the ally starts recounting his own past, remembering when he reincarnated as a useless runt. He shares that he grew up in a dark mine, eating bugs and even consuming whatever fallen fighters he could find just to avoid starving. But at 5 years old, the system awakened, and with his new power, he wiped out every monster in that filthy cave. Badly bruised, the boy wondered if he was still a monster, firmly concluding that his soul remained 100% human. Freeing the prisoners from the mine, he saved several heroines who were being tortured and used as captives. To heal the deep trauma the girls went through, the warrior revealed he used his special dual cultivation skill. Feeling sympathetic, the MC agrees with the sentiment and says he also considers himself 100% human on the inside. But it soon clicks, and the little slime's eye widens in shock upon realizing the true usefulness of that special technique. Gon sighs, saying he envies the slime, since his technique required a lot of stamina and time in bed to level up stats with his partners. Detailing the process, he explains that each class of girl yielded health points or mana, along with an absurd amount of experience. Thanks to that, the goblin built a giant family with the women and decided to head to the royal capital in search of a better life. Rolling its eye, our hero mumbles in annoyance, thinking his partner is just bragging about his luck with the ladies. The mood gets heavy again, and the knight declares that going to the city was the worst mistake of his life, as it ended up costing him his entire family. Suddenly, an eerie voice echoes in the room, interrupting the vent session by announcing it finally found its target. The thread approaches the area while the system's holographic screen stays frozen, showing only 12% progress. Staring at the prey, a scary eye glows in the shadows, ready to start a fierce battle in the forest. Without hesitating, Gon draws his blade and fires off a devastating slash to push back the sudden enemy. The impact of the attack generates a massive wind spell that tears up the earth like a furious hurricane. The explosion completely destroys the battlefield, kicking up trees and dust into a giant crater. Walking out of the smoke unharmed, the attacker mocks the goblin's looks, revealing that the Pope ordered his absolute defeat. Following that, the creature curiously asks how the warrior managed to take down a monster that had regeneration and adaptation. Panting, the knight ignores his own armor's failure warnings and tells the system to shut up so he can stay focused. Totally insane, the villain suggests stealing his opponent's body just to research the wonders of that invisible panel. Furious, Gon curses Merlin, accusing him of being a dark being who sacrificed countless lives to create that immortal chimera. The attacker just stretches his neck in a bizarre way and argues that to higher beings, humanity means absolutely nothing. Ending the chat, the hunter gives an explosive push and charges like lightning at his prey. During the dash, he uses his beastly hands to grab 3 large rocks from the debris. Throwing the projectiles, the mage locks eyes with the little slime, mocking the tiny critter's weakness. Hit by the hypnotic power, the slime freezes in place, feeling like its soul is being completely exposed. With the mold neutralized, the villain shifts his attention and tracks the movement of his real target. Realizing the knight used the distraction to vanish from sight, Merlin lets out a sigh, finding the escape attempt useless. Dropping from the sky with everything he has, the elf yells that he never planned on running and fires a physical technique aimed right at the enemy's blind spot. Predicting the strike, the mage summons a giant cube of infernal flames to fry the attacker midair. Watching the sea of fire, the slime panics, fearing its protector got vaporized on the spot. Shielded by his own spell, Merlin brags, guaranteeing he'd never let a close combat fighter lay a finger on him. But the confidence drops when a black fist tears through the flames, proving the hero's technique also breaks magic. Taking advantage of the perfect opening, Gon lands a brutal flying kick right in the middle of the villain's face. With the impact, the attacker is slammed violently into the ground and completely pinned by his opponent. Emitting a desperate golden energy, the warrior swears he's taking that jerk down with him. The system activates Last Stand mode, locking the user's health at the minimum to ensure survival for 1 minute. Prepping the final strike, the man activates his supreme magic, radiating an incandescent light across the swamp. Recognizing the fatal spell, Merlin goes into absolute panic and begs to be let go, remembering the terrible price of that magic. A critical alert warns that the sacrifice will erase the user's body and soul forever, forcing the cancellation of the defense mode. Completely ignoring the fatal warning, Gon lets out a shout of sheer determination and detonates all the built-up energy at once. The pillar of light disintegrates the chimera, while the mage screams in agony, swallowed by the destruction. Turning to ashes, the warrior says a telepathic goodbye to the mold, apologizing and leaving one last warning to never trust the church. Against all expectations, the mage reappears severely injured, trying to figure out why his magic power failed so miserably. Completely furious, Merlin gathers his last bit of strength and swears the kingdom's strongest sorcerer would never lose to a weak monster. Activating its tracking, our hero notices the enemy doesn't know its tricks and decides to use that lack of information to its advantage. But before the slime can do anything, the gigantic colossal bird drops from the skies like a hurricane and hits the attacker dead on. With a brutal impact, the villain is crushed violently against the stone floor and coughs up violently, unable to defend himself. Trapped under the claws, the mage curses his own luck, knowing that if he doesn't get his full strength back, he'll be meeting his end right there. At that moment, the giant beast Snaketail rises and starts gathering a terrifying amount of blazing energy. Giving no chance to defend, the chimera bird fires a devastating dragon breath straight at its prisoner. The blast of magic fire tears through the battlefield with overwhelming force, vaporizing absolutely everything in its path. After the overwhelming attack, the dust settles, revealing the imposing creature in the center of the crater, while the little slime just watches quietly. The huge beast seems confused for a moment, looking around for more threats in the completely ruined area. Soon, the bird shifts its gaze to the ground and finally spots the tiny MC hiding nearby. Without a second thought, the colossal monster swallows the little slime whole in one bite, trying to eat the mold alive. However, the snake on the beast's tail quickly senses something is very wrong inside the flying creature's body. Suddenly, a blinding flash radiates from inside the bird, announcing that the little slime's reckless plan worked perfectly. Watching the bizarre scene from the outside, the MC is shocked and wonders if its old target is evolving naturally. The creature undergoes a majestic transformation and re-emerges in the skies as a grand feathered serpent dragon. Flapping its shiny new wings, the mythical beast gains momentum and cuts through the swamp's air with extreme ease and grace. The little slime watches the monster fly far away and lets out a tired sigh at all that magic chaos. Completely exhausted, the slime mold tries to process everything that just happened, trying to keep its sanity intact. The system displays a screen confirming the transfer of Gon's legacy, granting the slime valuable forging and navigation skills. Staring at the knight's remains scattered on the ground, the MC murmurs its fallen friend's name with deep sadness. It confesses it would rather go back to being just a carefree monster, since all this new power didn't bring any genuine happiness. Determined to move forward, our hero activates its tracking to carefully analyze the destroyed pieces of armor. Using its tentacles, it carefully spreads over every dented metal plate lying around the forest floor. By filling the empty spaces with its own body, the slime manages to assemble the full suit back together, uniting the broken parts. Inside the armor, the MC swears it will carry the goblin's legacy and get revenge on the evil church at any cost. A strong glare of determination shines from under the helmet, showing it's truly ready for the next battle. Taking a humanoid stance, it figures the lack of a real skeleton won't be an issue for controlling that steel frame. But the second it tries to take the first step, the suit's heavy leg wobbles, and the lack of physical balance becomes super obvious. Swaying clumsily from side to side, it desperately tries to stay standing in the warrior's heavy armor. Distressed, it realizes that coordinating so many limbs at the same time is a near impossible task for a single-celled being. Unable to hold itself up, our hero falls flat on its back on the hard ground, causing an extremely loud metallic thud. Giving up on that crazy idea, the slime oozes out of the suit and decides it's better to store the gear for now. Swallowing the massive pieces quickly, it absorbs all of Gon's armor straight into its own dimensional inventory. The panel confirms that the suit, forged to withstand extreme damage, was safely stored without getting another scratch. Night finally falls over the deadly swamp, bringing a quiet silence after a long day of fierce battles and losses. To rest safely, the MC seeks shelter and hides comfortably inside the dark hollow of a giant tree. Feeling its mind overloaded with so many events, it decides to organize its thoughts and start studying the newly acquired map. The hologram displays a vast world containing frozen valleys and tall mountains, along with the grand and highly coveted human royal capital. Spotting its own position on the holographic map, the little slime is amazed by the absurd size of that unexplored continent. The guide explains that the capital uses magic portals controlled by the church, allowing adventurers to travel the world instantly. Understanding the transport system, the little monster concludes it just needs to find one of those gates to reach enemy territory. Checking its reserves, it acknowledges that before heading to the city, it will need to get stronger using every resource on hand. Calmly browsing its inventory, the slime's gaze lands on Nia's fallen body, and it wonders if it should break down the girl's body now. Looking at the swamp lit up by mushrooms, it hesitates for a second, weighing if that would be the most respectful thing to do. Accepting the sad reality, the slime concludes it's impossible to revive her, and absorbing her remains is way better than letting her fade away. Slowly, the MC spreads its acidic mass over the young tamer's cold body to start the painful organic process. The decomposition covers the girl's pale face, melting and erasing her physical form little by little in a golden light. In a brief, comforting illusion, Nia's radiant spirit smiles gently as she waves goodbye to the little monster forever. Crying with a heavy heart, the little slime says its final goodbye to the only person who showed compassion for its monstrous form. Finalizing the farewell, it swears to completely destroy the church, even if it has to fight everyone totally alone. The processed energy triggers an instant evolution, boosting the mold to level 50 and merging its command skills. Hours fly by in the swampy forest, and a new sun dawns, lighting up the rocky mountains on the distant horizon of the world. Far away from there, a green mutant frog is lazily resting on a huge lily pad, floating on the calm waters. However, the amphibian suddenly widens its eyes upon sensing a fatal and overwhelming danger approaching from beneath the aquatic foliage. Without any prior warning, an explosive blast hits the water, launching the creature into the air with overwhelming violence. Completely disoriented by the surprise hit, the little animal has no clue what's going on as it plummets toward the swamp mud. Walking up to the fallen prey, the MC apologizes to the amphibian, but justifies it needed a test subject for its new power. Reading the instructions, it discovers the newly created technique allows it to invade a fallen body and wear it like a living suit. To kick off the dark experiment, the MC spits a chunk of its own cytoplasm straight into the defeated animal's wide-open mouth. Focusing its energy hard, the slime mold triggers the internal command, activating its new level 1 parasite technique. Immediately, the separated piece of slime springs into action, breaking through the prey's flesh and replacing the original veins with an invasive network. A detailed view reveals the yellow mass branching out through the frog's whole anatomy until it completely takes over the central nervous system. The lifeless shell reacts to the invasive stimulus, and its hind leg twitches sharply, signaling the start of the biological reanimation. Shocked, our hero's main body watches the little frog stand up on its own and make noise, looking 100% reanimated. Reading the green confirmation on the screen, it understands the parasite phase lifts the shell, turning it into a puppet driven by instinct. Prepping the final stage of the skill, the little slime focuses on transferring its own consciousness straight into the mold incubated in the frog's brain. The mold's central eye shines at max intensity as it issues the irrevocable order of total domination over the puppet. With a wet snap, the beast grows a third eye on its forehead, proving the MC has taken absolute control of the new host. Seeing through the creature, the slime is amazed by the wide panoramic field of vision generated by the animal's side eyes. Moving the legs with agility, it notices the parasite slime inherited all the muscle memory, skipping the need for motor readjustment. Turning the mutant head backward, the little frog starts carefully inspecting its former gooey shape sprawled in the tall grass. Understanding that the original body was left vulnerable in automatic mode, it figures it will need to hide it well before going out to fight. Hyped with its new mobility, the reincarnated mold uses the puppet's elastic tongue, catching a fly mid-air flawlessly. Watching the little insect fly across the background, the zombie frog locks its attention on the prey. Snapping the tongue at full force, it lands a devastating hit on a giant bug, squashing the creature. Excited with the result, the MC thinks it's all very interesting and decides to test the skill somewhere else. Hopping non-stop through the brush, the little slime has a blast, controlling its new borrowed body. Spotting a giant snail, the beast tells it not to run and quickly moves in to strike. But a warning buzzer starts beeping while the yellow consciousness link gets yanked out of the amphibian. The system screen warns that the signal is too weak, causing an immediate disconnection. Without the main mind's command, the mutant frog's body collapses to the ground, completely motionless. Hiding behind a bush 30 meters from there, the real slime body evaluates the distance limit. Crawling up to its dropped puppet, it concludes it can't stray too far from the main body while controlling it. Suddenly, the amphibian wakes up on its own, letting out a croak and leaving our hero quite surprised by the scene. The creature happily starts hopping away across the field, while the slime mold yells for it to come back right away. An idea pops into the MC's mind, and it finally grasps what just happened. The panel reveals there are two control forms, active domination and automatic mode. Since the main body works like an antenna, the puppet drops into automatic mode and acts on instinct if it gets too far from the master. Acting on its own, the frog tries to eat the snail, but ends up missing every single tongue strike on the target. Watching that failure, the mold concludes this auto mode isn't smart at all for real fights. Giving up on the idea, it cancels the skill, storing the puppet back into its dimensional inventory. Thinking about the logic of the technique, the MC wonders if it could dominate much higher level creatures. Building a parasite army to face the evil church would be perfect, so it decides to look for better targets. Just then, a water jet suddenly shoots out of the lake, cutting through the air toward the swamp's edge. The attack hits the little slime dead on, taking off 70 health points in a rather painful impact. Annoyed by the cowardly ambush, our hero demands to know who had the nerve to attack him like that. Believing it to be that old spitting crab, he cheers for the delivery of materials right to his doorstep. However, he gets pretty confused upon realizing the attacker was actually a tiny pufferfish. Tired of being treated like a snack by every random critter, the MC decides to show off the power of a level 50 lord. Ignoring the threat, the fish quickly puffs up its body, prepping a barrage of lethal jets. Dodging the fast shots, the slime hits back hard, firing its plasma barrage at the enemy. The counterattack hits the lake's surface dead on, splashing mud and water everywhere. Diving at full speed, the yellow mass pushes through the muddy bottom, hunting its tiny aquatic prey. Floating by the shore, the little monster warns that a hit-and-run tactic won't be that easy to pull off. Without wasting time, it stretches its tentacles and shapes a large capture net underwater. The trap works flawlessly, snagging several venomous fish all at once in the tight mesh. Hauling the heavy net out of the lake, our hero gains a lot of experience and marvels at the number of catches. The system confirms the transformation of the taken-down targets, granting new pufferfish puppets for the collection. A glowing screen displays the new puppet's skills, including the water jets and the ability to inflate. Continuing its hunt through the swamp, the slime focuses on a giant crab walking calmly through the brush. Leaping from the shadows, the MC lands hard right on top of the startled beast's thick shell. Trying to shake it off, the crustacean thrashes its body violently in a desperate struggle for survival. Taking advantage of the opening, the slime slips through the cracks of the natural armor and breaches the victim's plating. The parasite skill consumes the inside of the creature, draining its energy and yielding more experience points. Taking full control, the yellow veins cover the shell, confirming absolute domination over the host. The panel updates the crab's stats, unlocking new attacks like mud foam and steel pincers. Later on, a deep buzzing sound starts echoing through the trees, catching our explorer's attention. Looking up at the forest canopy, the little slime spots a furious swarm of giant wasps, gathering in a battle call. Controlling the mutant frog, it tells the insects to witness its true power and preps a special attack. The elastic tongue spins at high speed, snatching dozens of wasps out of the air with extreme precision. With a brutal yank, the beast slams the bugs into the ground, gaining experience for every instant takedown. Chewing on the giant meal, the amphibian's belly gets stuffed, completely out of breath, to keep fighting. Taking advantage of the pause, the mage wasps conjure magic seals in the sky, forming a colossal fireball. Seeing the fatal spell take shape, the mold realizes that relying only on the frog to face the swarm isn't going to cut it. Acting fast, it abandons the current puppet, triggering the consciousness transfer through the neural link. In the blink of an eye, the MC's mind takes control of the giant crab stored in the swamp. Ordering an immediate fire, the crustacean starts foaming at the mouth, prepping the aquatic counterattack. Powerful water cannons erupt from the beast's claws, tearing through the skies toward the enemy spell. The violent clash of magic cancels out the fire attack, creating a massive explosion of thick steam across the battlefield. A system warning alerts that the crab's internal moisture ran out, blocking the use of new water blasts. Aside from losing the skill, the host's energy bar drops to a critical state of near collapse. With no liquid left to survive, the shell cracks, and the puppet's body begins to completely dry out. Giving no time to rest, the annoying buzzing returns, and the wasps prep another round of explosive magic. A firestorm punishes the forest floor, sweeping everything with a devastating blast of heat. When the smoke clears, the crab and frog shells appear completely scorched by the overwhelming magic. Believing they won, the two conjurer wasps fly closer, inspecting the smoking remains of their prey. Surprising the bugs, a precise water shot hits one of the mages, sending the creature flying away. Hiding in a small puddle, the pufferfish celebrates the success of its genius stealth attack. Furious at the ambush, the surviving wasp aims at the little fish and readies a new blast of fatal fire. Noticing the trap closing in, the little slime pulls off one more quick mind transfer, escaping the danger. Jumping straight from the top of a tree, the main body announces it doesn't mind losing mere disposable puppets. Sensing the frightening presence coming from above, the insect widens its big eyes, totally paralyzed by the scare. Acting as a group, the flying guards step in and summon a triple wax barrier to protect the mage. Using the plasma cannon, our hero shatters the defense, confessing it was just testing its new troops earlier. The dark, dense attack shreds the hexagonal shields, proving the MC's real strength surpasses any puppet. With the defense broken, the slime lands heavily on top of the mage wasp, crushing the creature without mercy. Quickly, the yellow neural network spreads, looking to completely take over the giant bug's central nervous system. Gaining a third eye on its face, the new puppet stands up, proving it now belongs to the Lord of Monsters. Starting the tests with the new puppet, the slime watches a small insect flying to the forest. The plan is pretty simple. By controlling the queen bee, he guarantees absolute command over the whole swarm all at once. The system soon confirms the parasite's success, turning the queen into a monstrous puppet with a hive mind. Without wasting time, the new leader sends out a vibrant call, ordering all its children to rise. However, the shells scattered across the forest floor stay completely motionless, showing no reaction at all. Frustrated with the failure, the slime wonders why the swarm didn't obey the queen's command. Then it remembers that if the leader falls, the whole hive goes with it, making this control plan a waste of time. Since the queen is useless as a puppet, the little monster decides to drop the body and focus on something worthwhile. With that, he secures at least one mage wasp parasite to add to his combat arsenal. The panel shows the magic bug's new skills, including levitation and creating fire sparks. Staring at the horizon, the gelatinous leader announces the start of the Great Slime Mold Squad. Striking a dramatic pose in the dark, he orders all his soldiers to assemble immediately. Pointing at the mutant frog, the MC decides to name the amphibian Waji. Then he names the big crab Crabsook, praising the new catch's huge claws. Finishing the intros, he calls the spiky little pufferfish ActionToon, completing his bizarre team. Looking around, the slime notices that his precious mage wasp just vanished off the map. Super confused, he is absolutely sure he just released the bug along with the others. A terrible suspicion crosses the MC's mind as he stares at his own allies. Confirming the worst, Waji shows up casually chewing on the team's new mage. Furious at the greedy betrayal, the hero kicks the frog, demanding that no one devours their own teammates. Spit back out, the wasp loses a bit of durability, but its master guarantees everything is safe now. Analyzing the unusual lineup, he concludes the structure of his combat squad is finally perfect. Now all the puppets wait patiently on the ground for their lord's next orders. The armored crab takes on the heavy tank role, ready to soak up attacks on the front lines. Meanwhile, the agile pufferfish gets the shooter spot, focused on dealing ranged damage with its water jets. The newly saved mage wasp rounds out the damage with its lethal fire spells. And the mutant frog acts as the group's rogue, using its fast tongue to ambush any prey. To top it off, our hero declares himself the commander-in-chief and the strongest support of all. The system projects a retro battle simulation where the squad faces off against a feathered serpent dragon. In reality, the gigantic colossal bird stomps hard on the ground, aiming its crushing attack straight at the wasp mage. Acting fast, the leader orders the crab to pop its max shell defense. The monster claw comes down mercilessly, ready to crush the flying insect in the blink of an eye. However, the crustacean blocks the brutal impact, creating a golden energy shield in front of its ally. The force of the strike is so absurd that it cracks the tank's armor, starting to drain its health. Refusing to let his ally fall, the slime injects a healing burst of cytoplasm, stating nobody needs to be afraid. Instantly, the cracks in the shell seal up, glowing green with a complete energy restore. Taking advantage of the monster being stalled, the commander orders the shooters to unleash everything they have. Promptly, the duo preps their elemental spells, aiming straight at the creature's exposed body. The rain of fire and water hits the giant bird head-on, dealing massive damage to its health bar. Assessing the enemy's tough skin, the MC knows the suppressing fire won't last, so he sends in the frog. Like a true ninja, Waji jumps and slashes the beast's face using a dagger tied to its elastic tongue. The critical hit leaves the serpent dragon dizzy and completely weakened by the combo of attacks. The whole team gathers to celebrate the success, but the boss warns it's not time to party yet. Determined to end the fight, he orders a full charge to take the beast down, once and for all. Refusing defeat, the colossal bird lets out a deafening screech, glaring at the tiny opponents with fury. The final clash kicks up a thick cloud of dust and destruction all across the battlefield. With no strength left to resist, the giant collapses to the ground, confirming its total defeat against the squad. The simulation system flashes a big, bright screen announcing the tactical team's absolute victory. Sitting calmly after the mental training, the little slime lets out a satisfied chuckle at the result. Super hyped about his troops' potential, he decides not to waste another second standing around. Walking into a dark swamp cave, the hero officially declares the start of field training. Up ahead, a fast blur crosses the shallow lake, jumping across the rocks with great agility. The little creature was just a hopping rat carrying a freshly caught worm in its mouth, but the rodent's peace doesn't last, as a stealthy predator watches from the bushes. A camouflaged stone cat leaps out of the brush, using a powerful burst to take down the unaware prey. The monster feline devours the little rat in a single finishing bite, crunching the bones eagerly. Savoring the quick snack, the animal raises its head, still with the victim's tail hanging from its teeth. Suddenly, its yellow eyes widen in sheer terror as it notices something approaching. In a silent strike, a giant swamp mosquito drives its spear into the cat's back and lifts it into the air. The bug's grotesque abdomen pulses rapidly as it drains the fresh blood of its new catch. The feline's vitality is sucked away mercilessly, drying its stiff body in a matter of seconds. Fully drained, the useless shell is tossed from above, plummeting back down into the mud. Satisfied with the feast, the flying monster flaps its wings, continuing its route over the marsh. Mid-flight, the predator turns its head side to side, sniffing out more easy food down below. Hovering over a rushing river, it watches several fish jumping to eat some mysterious eggs. Drawn to the defenseless crowd, the insect dives at full speed, ready to impale its next meal. Right at the moment of the strike, the whole water glows in a violent electrical discharge that fries everything on the surface. The overwhelming shock knocks out both the nosy fish and the mosquito, leaving the bodies floating motionless. Breaking the water's surface tension, a colossal mouth emerges from the depths, swallowing the bug in one gulp. An electric catfish flashes a diabolical smile, showing who the real predator of that river is. However, the amount of absorbed energy triggers a blinding flash, covering the fish in intense light. Hiding on a safe rock, the slime is shocked to witness another natural ecosystem evolution process. The regular catfish transforms into a majestic electric creature resembling the ancient legends of sea dragons. Debuting its new form, the beast unleashes a powerful thunderclap that violently rips upward through the waterfall. After the electric scare passes, our hero stays quiet on his branch, reflecting on the absurd dangers of that forest. Impressed by the scene, the little slime comments that monster evolution seems to be happening way more often. Just then, the system pops up, warning that the encyclopedia on the world's history is almost fully loaded. Soon, the swamp forest file opens, confirming that it's an extreme danger zone where evolution is the standard. The level classification ranks creatures from the weakest all the way up to the feared king-class monsters. In a past battle, the allied monster army was completely wiped out, causing severe damage to the ecology. To restore the ecosystem, the Earth continuously gathers magic power, forcing evolution to restart. That way, the surviving beasts use the environment to evolve and fight for leadership. The cycle never stops, and the food chain is always changing, with every monster wanting to be the new king of the hill. With the log finished, the MC finally understands how the madness of that place works. He quickly wonders if his puppets can evolve too, finding it weird that fish seems stronger than him. But the system explains that level isn't everything, since species traits and skills carry much more weight. Suddenly, a flash appears down below, grabbing the hero's attention, and he decides to check out the commotion. Tearing through the swamp waters at an absurd speed, a massive crocodile charges in for an attack. Watching from the front row, the slime gets spooked by the violence of the brutal approach. However, the huge electric fish unleashes a devastating discharge right on the giant reptile's snout. Without any mercy, the continuous electricity fries the huge level 60 swamp crocodile. The shock is so strong that it shatters the reptile's defenses, knocking the beast out instantly. Hyped about the lucky break, the slime jumps toward the water, celebrating the free meal delivered right to his door. Floating in the shallows, the two predators lie completely knocked out after the fatal impact of that double clash. Checking out the bodies up close, our hero notices they're too damaged to be used as puppets. Trying to swallow the fish, he ends up taking several residual shocks that start to drain his health. To avoid getting fried over nothing, he stuffs himself with honey to recover the points lost to the shock. Using the massive nutritional overload from the sweets, the little slime expands his body to completely engulf the prey. Covering everything with his thick mass, he finally activates the advanced decomposition skill. The system goes crazy with the massive experience gain, even granting resistance to the lightning element. Submerged in the MC's brutal acid, the clean bones of the two beasts sink into the green swamp. Stuffed and satisfied, he sighs in relief as the level 51 notification shines on his screen. Determined not to waste his extra size, the little monster decides to go on a hunting frenzy through the forest. The peaceful horizon of the marsh hides a literal massacre about to happen in the treetops. Like a runaway tractor, the yellow mass charges ahead, breaking branches and devouring everything in its path. Tearing up the woods, the giant steamroller celebrates the absurd experience gain from its rampage. Suddenly, the little monster hits the brakes on its brutal march upon noticing a sharp change in the scenery. Across the damp shore, an immense mangrove forest displays dense and inviting vegetation. Curious about the untouched spot, the slime quickly deduces an area like that must hold way stronger creatures. Without a second thought about the danger, he gears up, ready to cross the river and explore the new territory. The yellow slime mountain dives heavily into the water, kicking up a huge wave around itself. But the commotion doesn't go unnoticed, immediately drawing hundreds of red eyes from the depths. In a violent frenzy, a school of toothy piranhas charges, biting huge chunks out of the intruder. Very annoyed by the nerve, the MC watches his health drop fast from the simultaneous attacks. To pay back the insult, he absorbs the bold fish, recovering the lost energy at the same rate. However, the tide trade of damage and healing makes our hero realize this tactic isn't worth it. Making things much worse, a gigantic swarm of piranhas forms a funnel aiming straight for his body. Trapped and sinking in the river, he realizes he can't react in time as he gets swarmed alive by the pests. The system warns that in group environments, the massive amount of weak beasts easily overwhelms a higher level. Surrounded by sharp teeth in every direction, the little slime panics, fearing his end has come. In a desperate move, the colony leader sacrifices 20,000 health, shooting a blast of cytoplasm to escape. The skill's impact launches the MC out of the water, landing safely on the other shore, now back to normal size. Staring at the river's turbulent surface, he feels relieved to have escaped that aquatic meat grinder. Soon, the slime checks with the interface if eating more honey will make him giant again, confirming there's still plenty of time left. Restoring his massive shape, the little slime resumes his devouring tractor routine, swallowing up the new forest. Stopping to look at the damage, he notices the vegetation quickly growing back from the ground right behind him. Surprised by the place's vitality, he understands that the Earth's magic power restores all the plants in an instant. With that, an idea pops into his head, figuring it won't be that hard to take down the human church using his infinite energy. Based on his continuous cycle of decomposition and evolution, he pictures himself as an unbeatable resource machine. In his ambitious imagination, a colossal wave of slime invades the holy city, crushing all opponents in the blink of an eye. Laughing happily at his delusions of grandeur, he is abruptly cut off by an alert invalidating his theory. Wiping the optimistic smile off his face, the little monster doesn't get the reason for the interference and waits for the explanation. The interface clarifies that destroying lower-level items applies a severe penalty, yielding almost zero experience. Disappointed by the harsh reality, he realizes he was eating like a maniac and barely leveled up at all. Annoyed next to a shell, the hero asks why they don't show the exact values and finds out it would use too much processing power. Tired of the lame excuses, the slime grabs a giant bone claw to vent his frustration. In a brief fit of rage, he smacks the makeshift weapon into the mud, splashing dirty water everywhere. Complaining that the AI's customer service is annoying, he gets the notice that his transformation has ended. Accepting the end of his destructive moment, the commander agrees to deactivate the bonus peacefully. Immediately, his yellow body shrinks, feeling a massive wave of nausea take over his little stomach. Unable to hold it in, the little slime throws up a literal mountain of old bones and undigested trash all at once. Staring at the pile of organic scraps, he understands that to truly evolve, he needs to find dangerous enemies on his level. Up ahead, an aerial view reveals a vast, muddy plain stretching all the way to the horizon's edge. Overlooking the end of the jungle, the low tide leaves the soil completely exposed, creating an empty and gloomy landscape. Crawling carefully through the damp clay, our hero wonders what kind of beasts might live in a place like this. But the walk quickly annoys him as the thick mud makes him feel stickier and more uncomfortable than usual. He suddenly halts his exploration when he notices the ground dotted with dozens of deep holes scattered across the dirt. Curious about the burrows, he peeks into the dark inside of one, asking if anyone is home and wants to get eaten. To test the danger, the little slime stretches his squishy arm and covers the top of the hole in a very careless move. Surprising the adventurer, a sharp claw pierces the mud, pinning his hand to the ground under a mysterious threat. Yanking the little slime hard, a weird fish jumps out of the hole to the surface. Staring down the level 17 creature, the MC mocks it, stating that on solid ground, he's not scared of any little fish. But the amphibian beast quickly preps for an attack by puffing out its chest. Then, the animal opens its mouth in a booming scream that echoes across the whole mud plain. Shocked by the noise, our hero is impressed that critter can yell so loud. Answering the call, dozens of identical fish start crawling out of their holes. Evaluating the situation, the slime figures that since it's a community, the threat is way bigger than just one isolated guy. Annoyed by the numbers' disadvantage, he asks if the enemies really thought he'd fight alone. Right then, the adventurer slams his tentacles on the ground, ready to summon his own defenses. In a flash, a cloud of smoke kicks up, revealing several piranhas controlled by him. Along with the zombie fish, his big crab also pops up, ready for combat. Hyped about his own technique, the little monster cheers that he can now use manga skills in real life. But the enemies don't let up and fire an intense barrage of mud shots. The projectiles fly right into the big crustacean shell, which tanks all the impact. Thanks to that, the makeshift shield gets totally covered in clay and is immobilized on the spot. Figuring out the clay dries fast to pin targets, the leader realizes his gooey body is immune to that trick. Without wasting time, the weird fish rise up on their front fins in a threatening stance. In a coordinated move, the whole pack charges furiously toward the little yellow mountain. The MC gets a jump scare seeing that fast and bizarre march coming his way. Suddenly, he starts having delusions of grandeur, picturing the fish as his bodyguards in a luxury car. Shaking his head to brush off the useless thought, the little slime remembers that daydreaming always brings trouble. Snapping back to reality, the amphibian horde keeps tearing through the mud without slowing down. Riding the momentum, the animals all jump at once, creating a literal rain of enemies. Watching the rehearsed maneuver, our hero sarcastically asks if they're trying to put on a show. Up in the air, the fish curl up their bodies, spinning on their own axis at absurd speed. Terrified by the dangerous scene, the slime panics, calling those creatures chainsaw fish. In a lightning-fast dive, the spinning beasts crash hard against the battlefield. The sharp fins start sawing into the crab's hard shell, causing massive damage. The system warns that the parasite puppet's durability is dropping fast from the continuous impact. To save his shield, the MC injects part of his own body into the puppet, telling it to hang in there. Switching his consciousness, the slime takes control of a pufferfish, shooting a water jet to dodge the threat. Next, the puppet violently bites one of the attackers, earning the experience points from the takedown. But the enemies don't stop and aim their spinning bodies straight at the zombie frog. Agile as ever, the creature jumps to the side, dodging perfectly away from the deadly blades. Striking back fast, the amphibian shoots its mutant tongue, shaped like triple fists. Landing a clean hit, the creature pushes one of the opponents back while taking cuts to its body. The living saws keep tearing up the muddy ground, forcing the MC to switch control once more. Frustrated at losing members of his troops, he realizes their automatic AI is useless against this pack. With his frogs getting brutally beaten, the little slime confesses he's being completely outmatched on the field. Stepping up to the front lines, one of the big frogs lands a powerful whip strike, knocking down another flying fish. However, the critter takes a surprise hit from behind, forcing the consciousness to rush back. The rain of slashes keeps falling hard against the defenses, leaving no room for any effective counterattack. Cornered, our hero brings out one of his wasps, summoning 3 wax barriers at the same time. Focused on the battle, the little monster realizes he needs to lock down the school's movements first, and soon gets a brilliant idea.